All right, let's get cooking. All right, welcome to the new What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris. I'm one half. He'll be here shortly. I hope you all had a great Easter. I had a fantastic one. I got to tell you, I really did. I had a really, really, really fantastic Easter, which I'm sure I'll talk about more in a second. But don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and to share them far and wide. The best place, of course, to follow me and Barnes both is on Locals. I'm right here, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. All right. And oh, yeah, don't forget to follow the gram at peoples_pundit on Instagram. All right. Getting cooking here. Look, the vice president's been up basically all night long, as I understand it, along with Witkoff, and they are trying to get a ceasefire, which we'll talk about here with Barnes. Man, I asked Robert if he was going to wear a suit, and he didn't answer me. That's all right. That's all right. I was like a little bit easier today anyway. Like, here, let me bring him on in. He's here. So let's bring in Robert. I was just telling him, like, the vice president's basically been up all night trying to get a ceasefire. But like, before we get into this, how was your Easter, Robert? Mine was fantastic.
Yeah, the aside from the seeing a president go insane in live time, it was good. You know,
he's lost his mind. He's lost.
Yeah, completely. I mean, we talked about it when we were up there in D.C. Came back and reported that people around the president were reporting that he was losing his brain, losing his mind. And for those out there, you know, like I know James's son was. It sounds like he wasn't sent to the 82nd.
He wasn't. Thank God.
When Rich and I are laughing, we're laughing at the insanity of the world. We're not laughing at the horrible potential risk that these soldiers face due to the president being insane. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's the reality. And unless the vice president is able to tackle him and put him in the basement somewhere and let him watch, you know, nonstop 24-hour celebrations of him, God knows what, you know, might happen to the world. But the other, so, you know, we'll cover today predictions. I'll give you my updated predictions of the House, updated predictions of the Senate. But a large part of it is a function of, I mean, like you're seeing Steve Deace, Clay Travis, these other people that are in even Mike Cernovich in part, are in a complete delusional state as to what's happening in this war. The Steve Deace was like, this was the greatest military accomplishment in all of human history. This is the level of nuts these guys are in. And unfortunately, the
Western media sucks, Robert. It does.
Oh,
it's bad.
The right-wing ecosphere, you combine with the Israel lobby and how they bought off so many influencers. And what you end up getting is people who believe things that are just nuts. No, we're not winning the war. What were the military means?
We're losing. I hate to tell you all.
Yeah, correct. I mean, and I encourage people to do some objective metrics. What are the 4 goals the president laid out? We could lay out the 5th, which is the real one, which was regime change. And not just regime change, but change to a pro-American, pro-Israel regime in Iran.
Right.
So that we're nowhere near. In fact, it's further back than it's ever been in the history of this regime. This regime has more popular support in Iran than it has ever had since the revolution itself. So we're getting nowhere on that. It's going the opposite direction. The second is how much are we destroying their missiles? The number of missiles that we report destroying keep going down percentage-wise as the war goes on. First it was 100%, then it was 95%, then it was 90%, then it was 80%, then it was 67%, now it's 50%. Oh, it's probably less than 10%, folks. They build these missiles way underground. They're the missiles that their missiles their missiles and their drones are built way underground. They're stored underground. They're fired from essentially way underground locations, taken out and then brought back. We've been destroying a bunch of decoys. We have not been destroying their missile capacity or their missile launching capacity. It's completely fake. That's why we keep saying, we've destroyed them. And then the next day they launch as many missiles they launched the day before. And the next day the same. And the next day the same. And the next day the same. Same with their drones. Same with their underwater drones. Same with their mini subs. Trump keeps talking about their Air Force. Their Air Force are their missiles and their drones. They don't have a traditional Air Force. He keeps talking about their Navy. They don't have a traditional Navy. They have underwater drones. They have these automated boats. They have these and many of them are stored in caves. That's their Navy. Their Navy's not a traditional Navy. They knew they couldn't compete as a traditional Navy. They knew they couldn't compete as a traditional Air Force. That's all nonsense. So are we destroying Are we any closer to regime change? No, we're further away than ever before. Are we close to destroying their capacity to build and store and launch ballistic missiles, drones, underwater drones, the mini subs, these boats that can take people out of the Straits of Hormuz? No, we're nowhere near it. Are we close to taking away their enriched uranium? That was what this weekend was. This weekend was sold as a rescue mission. That isn't what it was. The whole goal this weekend was to take out the rest of their enriched uranium.
Yeah, let me get that, people.
It abysmally failed. It utterly failed. Yeah. That's what really happened this weekend, and Trump's just spinning it like a wild man. That's why he was so hot on Sunday. That's why he was cussing in his comments and saying "Praise be to Allah" on Eastern Sunday.
Oh my God.
So we're nowhere near any of that. So all of the metrics we've set out to destroy their missile capacity, destroy their drone capacity, and then last but not least, have we controlled or have any control of the Straits of Hormuz? We're nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. They are in complete control of the Straits of Hormuz. Nothing we've done has changed that equation at all. It's about to become an economic disaster. And if Trump does what he's threatening to do, which is to try to destroy their civilian energy infrastructure, which will not be easy at all because it's one of the most decentralized energy structures in the entire world. By the way, we tried to bomb North Korea into the Stone Age. Didn't work. We tried to bomb Vietnam into the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Didn't work. We tried to bomb Afghanistan into the Stone Age. Didn't work. This is not going to work. All Trump would do if he launches massive attacks on their bridges and their power plants, other than bragging to the world what a huge war criminal he is, the only other thing he would be doing is greenlighting Iran, taking out the water desalination plants, which, unlike Iran, all the Gulf states rely on, and you would make the entire Gulf uninhabitable and take out their oil and energy, which would jack up prices for the next decade. So what Trump is thinking about doing is economic suicide for the West. It is insane. So don't be denuded about that. So that's the broad scope of where the war is. Find independent sources that are consistently accurate in their predictions. Dave Rubin isn't one of them. He told you the Straits of Hormuz wouldn't close.
Never closed.
He told you the price of oil wouldn't go up. He's a moron. Clay Travis is a retard of the day. That's what he is every single day he posts. Steve Deace doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So find people that know what they're talking about, who've been accurate in their short and medium-term predictability, and you won't be one of those TDS Trump devotion syndrome cultists out there saying things as stupid as, this is the most successful military campaign in history.
And then you won't be surprised if you don't avoid the political fallout of what you've done. And this is what, I got to go look him up and find him because he's been right. Jesse Kelly. He's been right. He's like, the Republicans are just living in their own world between the war and then what's going to happen. And the sad part is that, and I put a tweet up showing the trends for us and Real Clear Politics, because the truth is we led the trends on the Real Clear Politics. And also there was, obviously it's an aggregate. So there are all these other polls that aren't as good as us. So let's be honest. Let's be real. I'm not trying to sound like an arrogant prick, but they didn't have Republicans leading the generic ballot in ever. They didn't have Trump. Some of them didn't even have Trump positive territory when he was on a +18 spree for a long time after he was inaugurated. So, the Real Clear Politic trend isn't, I don't think it's as good as my own trend. I'm a little biased there, but we lost the lead. Republicans lost the lead on the generic ballot when Donald Trump bombed Iran last year. That is when they lost the lead. And for a while, despite you and I screaming and yelling about this, there was a point where they could have said, okay, we hear you, because voters were screaming loud and clear. No, get back to domestic policy. This is not what you were elected to do. They chose, Robert. They made a choice. With the lobby in their ear, they made a choice not to listen. They were well aware of what the polling said. They were well aware of how unpopular this would be. They were well aware of all of it. It's like a touch of arrogance or hubris, mixed in with, because people ask me all the time, just look at the tweet I put up yesterday. And I think we all could probably imagine what senior administration official asked me that. He was like, doesn't it suck being you a little bit? It must actually, and that's it, because when he asked me, it was a joke. They know they're going to get destroyed, and it's like, isn't it great to be right all the time, kind of thing? But it's not great, because you're sitting here trying to tell them this, not because you have TDS all of a sudden or whatever. It's because you can tell Guys, go do the tail of the tape. Rewind a year ago to what are the odds a year ago. We told you would end up here. And like Jesse Kelly pointed it out, and he's right. This wasn't inevitable. So now all of these losers that you're pointing out, the Dave Rubins and the Will Chamberlains and the rest of them, all of these idiots who haven't predicted anything correctly in their entire social media career, they are going to try to blame all of the people who were right for losing. And it's like Jesse Kelly was just like, this is great. It's like it's a convenient excuse, but the data is actually very, very clear. Like no voter we interview says I'm not voting Republican because you know what, Tucker interviewed Nick Fuentes. Like I'm not gonna right, or because there's this rise of anti-Semitism on the right and they didn't support the unpopular Iran war. Right? They don't support the Israel lobby that 60% of the country thinks we need to kick out. Like this is ridiculous. It doesn't even make sense. The argument doesn't even make sense. And to go back, a little bit, it's like for me, people are always asking me these things and I can't give them any insight because the truth is it was just hubris. They knew we'd end up here. They didn't listen. They just frankly didn't listen. The lobby was too powerful and it did a very good job glazing Donald Trump. Like Trump is a flatterer. When he wants something from you, and believe me, if I didn't want to blow, what's the word? If I didn't want to give up confidence, I mean, you would see Trump will lay the flattery on thick. I'm sure Barnes has gotten a few of these calls as well. I'm sure he's gotten a few of these notes as well. He's a flatterer. And when he wants something, he'll flatter the shit out of you. And when you want something from Trump, flatter him. And he gets what he likes it. And they knew it. They had his number and they flattered him. Like, oh, you are amazing. Look, we could do what you did in Venezuela too, but only you, because you're the greatest president in the world. Like they glazed themselves and then glazed him. And he was so frustrated with the domestic failures that he just said, well, F it, let's do this instead. Right. So he convinced himself, despite the polling. By the way, Tony Fabrizio, they double checked my work. They got Tony to run a poll before all of this. It said the same thing we found. The margin was almost identical, and they didn't want deaths, troop deaths. I mean, Robert, this is when we're talking about how the consequences here. The country told you they didn't want a war. You started a war. The country told you they wouldn't accept any deaths. It looks like you're hiding casualty counts. All right. This is going to be, there's a price to pay for this is my point. There's a price. And I'm a little bit stunned, bro, how some of my friends over at the Defense Department, they're so frustrated. They're calling me Saturday, this is a shit show. And fucking Laura Loomer's running around here, with open, access to everything. I don't know what he's doing. Why is he entertaining this shit? But they're over it. And I'm just stunned because these are supposed to be, especially two at the top, are supposed to be my millennial friends and brothers in arms from the post 9/11 era. And they're supposed to know better. So when they're going on and on about 95% missile destruction, first of all, they know they're full of shit and they can't give you that number. Second of all, they know you can't beat Islamic fundamentalists like this. They know it. They all know it. I don't understand. It's all those metrics you just laid out. While you're doing it, I'm thinking about Pete at that stand, wondering, did Pete fall on his head and suddenly become a retard? Because he knows better. He knows better. You can't defeat them like this unless you want to do what Lindsey Graham, you want to flatten stuff. Did you hear the Israeli reporter the other day asked the head of the defense ministry, why don't we use a neutron bomb? That way we just kill people. We just kill all the people and we don't destroy the infrastructure. Well, first of all, idiot, neutron bombs, contrary to popular opinion, actually do significant damage to infrastructure. I mean, but what the hell are we talking about here? Neutron bombs, they're frustrated. They don't know what to do next. You know what I mean? And they're just throwing out the dumb shit. You cannot beat fundamentalists like this, guys. It doesn't matter even if you destroyed all of their Navy or their really non-existent Air Force. It doesn't matter. That's not how they're going to fight you. It's not how they're going to basically fight an economic and, kinetic war of attrition. And Americans, God forgive me for saying it, but look, I know it. I mean, I think we all know, we all experienced it for 20 years firsthand. We don't have the resolve for that. Not unless it's an imminent threat to us. And the problem is it's not. And Americans are not going to tolerate that kind of life lost or that kind of, what you're describing, Robert, is a war crime. What he said the other day, Bridge Day, that's a war crime, my friend. Okay, like so, and all of our buddies, like these are literally friends of mine who are currently at the Department of War, know that's a war crime. So like they just, I don't know, man. I don't even, guys. It's like you come to these shows for answers, and the truth is, do you got one for them? Like, how could Donald Trump bring us to this place? I just don't have an answer for them. Tomorrow, by the way, is the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, and Republicans are going to get fucking stomped. And sorry, I got to watch my language because apparently there's a lot of fans at church since my wife's smacking me because they're all like, "Oh, yeah, look, can I get a picture?" And she's like, "See." So I got to watch my mouth because their kids watch and stuff, you know. And so it. What do you? I mean, then there's the mayoral Waukesha. That's the one I'll be looking at tomorrow because Wisconsin hates war, bro. They hate war. This is a state that hates war. I don't know. Jump in here, man. I don't know what.
Yeah, well,
it's just frustrating.
When we start out with so I think the fundamentals are hopefully the sooner Trump exits, the better. The only exit ramp that's realistic is just to concede. Iran is now de facto controlling the Straits of Hormuz. Let everybody negotiate with Iran what the fee is going to be to get access to the
Which
Strait.
they were in before, by the way.
Yeah, correct. Number one. Number two, rein in, pull our troops out, pull our bases out. That's one of Iran's demand. There's no utility to it. The bases have proven useless in this conflict, and that was the only purpose of those bases in the first place. No reason to keep them there. Just bring our boys home. Don't keep wasting money there anyway. And then the third, the big one that Trump really doesn't want to do is rein in Israel. Rein in Israel and Lebanon. Rein in Israel and Gaza. Rein in Israel as to Iran. That, tell Israel, as Joe Ken has been emphasized, tell them no more, no mas. If they want diplomatic cover, if they want military support, if they want logistical aid, if they want key satellite information, then they've got to pull out of Lebanon, pull back from their constant breaches of the ceasefire in Gaza, and no more attacks on Iran. Just, that's it. It's over. It's done. It's finished. Move on. That could mitigate the harm, but it will not erase it. Democrats will win the House. Democrats will win the Senate in 2026. The question is only now a matter of margin. Do they win the House by 5 seats, 20 seats, 40 seats, 50 seats? Do they win the Senate by a seat? Or do they win it by 2 seats, 3 seats, 4 seats, 5 seats, 6 seats? How big is the margin? How Trump handles that this month of April, the conflict in Iran in terms of its economic blowback at all, not only the fuel, the food, the fertilizer, the helium that goes into chips, all of those things. People are deluding themselves into pretending that the Strait doesn't matter to the U.S. economically, won't impact us, or living in a la-la land. It goes into the entire global supply chain for food, semiconductors, fertilizers, pharmaceuticals, a wide range of goods and products, not to mention how the energy input cost factors into everybody's global supply chain that goes into products that ultimately show up here. How are we going to resupply our military industrial complex that we've almost exhausted a whole bunch of key weapons in this conflict, and this greatest success ever, according to Clay Travis and Steve Deace and some of these others, without getting the rare earths we need from China, which China is likely to start to shut them down again for precisely to prohibit this degree of defense build back. So all of those concerns, how Trump could make it an utter disaster, or he could make it a minor disaster in terms of the midterms based on what he does in April. Now, if we start, that's how I see the general electoral environment. I think as of now, Democrats will win the House by double digits in terms of percentage of the vote. This will be the biggest Democratic victory on the generic ballot, as it's colloquially called, for the House in modern American history. That, up until 1994, the House had swings, but those swings, there was an institutional Democratic edge in old Jacksonian America and parts of the South and Appalachia and so forth. Only in beginning 1994 did we truly get completely nationalized House elections.
Yeah.
So that's one factor. And as a backdrop, always people say, well, it always happens. That's not true.
It's not true. Right.
Outside of, and I'll give you the barometer I'm using. How often does in a midterm the incumbent White House party lose at least 5% of the seats in the House? That means 22 or more, and 10% of the open Senate seats. Yeah. That means 4 or more in the Senate. Outside of recession, war, and scandal, there's about a 90% chance that that does not happen.
Yeah.
So it is wrong to say it is typical or traditional in the midterms for the incumbent White House party to lose a bunch of House and Senate seats.
Only in the recent modern era. I tried to do a whole show on this with Inside the Numbers, Robert, to point out like there are reasons why the modern era became like that. And my point, my entire argument was, guess what? You don't have to continue them. We're like, our system is captured now. So we're having these wild, like, corrections that we didn't have. We had 30 years almost of uninterrupted Democratic control. Before that, we had years, decades of Republican control, almost uninterrupted. But back then, the system wasn't captured to the point where it failed all the time now. Like, so if these we had realignments, the parties would take advantage of those realignments as long as they delivered, and stayed on their platform until that platform became a disaster. They really were not thrown out of office. That's the history of popularly elected Congress in this country, even after the 17th Amendment was ratified, for most of the time until our era. And I just put this up to show people. You can see it right there, May 2025. All right, what happened shortly after that? The bombing of Iran cost the Republicans their lead on our and many other good generic ballots, including one who's now locked in a basement and now not allowed to talk to anybody. The others are unfortunately, Qantas Insights too, but unfortunately the others are not really, I'm going to leave it at that for now until this war is over. The others are not really reliable. Unfortunately, that's just sad, but true. And you can even see it on the Real Clear Politics, which has a bunch of blue-leaning generic ballots put into it as well. You can see where Republicans still led. And then when we got to really what happened, Robert, the lobby walked into town in March. This is what happened, guys. The lobby walked into town in March, and while Trump did not give them what they wanted right away, they started to take away Trump's attention and take away the domestic agenda. Before they started hiding his schedule, you could see it clear as day. It was all Iran, all Iran, all Iran, all Iran, even before it became a kinetic action. All right, so what you just said too, I'm going to show something I've been like not wanting to, but it goes to what you were saying. And the reason I don't want to is because it's a chart that I made specifically for Burn It Down. And I want people to I don't want to give people information and burn it down. I want them to go and get the damn book, right? But by the way, go buy Burn It Down on Amazon. All right. I think it's still #1 in new releases, by the way, which is all up to you guys, and glory to God. Love you guys for it. This is a chart I made in Burn It Down to explain to people, all right, that now they want to like dismiss polls like outwardly. But the truth is, and there's a quote that it's from the book that I'm going to put up on the screen too. The truth is the generic ballot has gotten better over the years too. It used to, and Barnes and I did a show on this like 4 or 5 years ago. It used to be that Democrats were overstated quite a bit on the generic ballot, right? So here's the Democratic margin. It basically, the name of it is generic ballot versus two-party House national popular vote, 1968 to 2004. And when we were doing research on this, Robert, I did notice that Cook and Sabato's websites, they've done similar stuff, but they were outdated. So we really had to update it. And then I argued something else as well, which they didn't. The advent of the Real Clear Politics aggregate, the average, began to iron out individual polls' average errors. And Gallup was it. They were the only show in town, guys, for many, many years. And you can see from 1968 to 2024. The reason why, they had final House votes for generic ballots for Gallup in every year except for 1988. I don't know why Gallup, I can't remember why Gallup didn't do it, but they didn't. All right. The rest of it is, and let me just, this is from 68 to 2000, is sourced from Gallup. When there are registered and likely voter samples, obviously for the finals, likely were used when it was given, when provided, the likely voter model was used, is cited in this. And there was no final for 88. The data from 04 to 24 is sourced by the Real Clear Politics aggregate. And I'm just going to read this basically. With the exception of 1980, which notably was not a midterm election cycle, the generic ballot has done a fairly decent job at predicting the two-party vote for the U.S. House. From 68 to 2000, polls missed the vote margin by an average of 4% and consistently overstated Democratic support. However, with Real Clear Politics beginning to average polls to reduce individual poll bias in 04, as well as changes to methodologies a lot of people implemented in 08. The average error from 04 to 2020 fell to just 2%. And those improvements reduced the overall average error from 68 to 24 to just 2.5%, which is well within most survey sampling errors. All right, so what am I saying here? If we're going to use the generic ballot, because I'm going to get into the generic ballot model right now. When you and I last year said the Senate was in danger, the truth is Alan Abramowitz and his Real Clear and his generic ballot model, he was already showing that, in fact, they were likely to be down on the generic ballot by a margin sufficient enough to flip like 5 Senate seats. Like that, this is historically, anyway. So I'll look at that in a second, but we have to first establish, guys, that we can use the generic ballot, which so many of you I notice on a daily basis are just blowing off. You can't blow off the generic ballot. You want to blow off Quinnipiac? Fine. You want to blow off Maris? Fine. But you can't blow off the aggregate, even with those shitty pollsters. In Trumpian years where they understated Republican support, the average error is still pretty remarkable when you average them all together. So, Robert, that's the bottom line. It is predictive. It's predictive rather early, which I'm going to get into in a second, and it is reliable. I think that's the better way to put it. Now, the House, there's when you look at the generic ballot model, guys, there's a reason why it's done a better job predicting the House than the Senate, and it's because of specific cycling on the map. So, for instance, is this a good or bad map for Republicans this cycle? Well, if it was a bad map for Democrats, a really bad one, we could expect that the predictive value on the Senate side of the generic ballot model would be, I would tell you to take it with a grain, that a lot of those states are going to be very hard for Democrats to flip. But unfortunately for Republicans, failing at realignment is a bitch. All right. You didn't complete the realignment. So Georgia is not going to be a target for you. North Carolina will be a flip. All right. As of right now, Maine is going to say you're going to suffer with Susan Collins in Maine, who normally survives because you did not complete the realignment. And the second district is not going to come gangbuster for you when you started an unpopular war that they did not want. And by the way, another thing, this was the worst fake buildup of a war ever. It was the most obvious buildup to war. Like, he never sold it, but everyone knew it was coming. The public knew it was coming. That's why we made the White House tracker, Robert. They knew. It was like they were trying to be duped. They were trying to dupe all these voters as if they didn't know what was happening. And you're not going to get away with that without paying a penalty. So let me just say some numbers real quick before throwing it back to you, bro. The generic ballot is actually predictive, very predictive at this point. And in fact, as I said before the holidays last year, it's pretty predictive even going back to last November, which is about 70%. So what do I mean by that? Whoever's down on the generic ballot in the November going into the final year, that actual election year, typically wins, and they have roughly 7 out of 10% of the time. We can also, though, make we can draw some inferences into what the margin's going to be like. Robert just said that they're going to lose by double digits at this point. They are. They were already going down because we're looking at a pretty bad environment for Republicans. If they don't do something soon, they'll lose by like 11. That's what it suggests, because if they're down 3 to 5 going into that year, most of the time, you'll see roughly, and I hate to say it, but Morris actually did. He's right. He did a write-up about this recently. About 5 points gets added on average. We're not in an average year. He started an unpopular war. So let's say the low end was true, guys, and they were down 3 going into the holidays, and it was just average. You could expect Democrats to win by 8, roughly 8 points. But guess what? It's not an average year. So we're looking at a potentially devastating situation. And with the Senate, what other states here? Georgia, North Carolina, Maine. There are people out there saying that Republicans are favored in Michigan because there's a couple right-leaning polls that have Rogers up by 1. That's insane. That is insane to me. Mike Rogers is going to lose by 10 points at this point. Like, are you kidding? He couldn't close the deal with Trump on the ballot, brother. He's going to do it now in an unpopular cycle for Republicans when they started an unpopular war? I don't think so. So my point is that the specificity with the cycle of the Senate map isn't going to help Republicans. And I'll just kick it back to you at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when I think
Iowa, you know.
See if you can pull up also the Gallup party affiliation quarterly trend, because that's another one that we mentioned has been predictive in presidential elections, has been predictive in a wide range of midterm elections. And so to complete the environment analysis before we get into the specifics of the House and the Senate, the other aspect you can trend, this is, even though party registration is a lagging indicator, it's already the disappointing thing is it's already lagging. States that were trending massively Republican in registration are starting to reverse course.
Right.
Even places like Pennsylvania and North Carolina.
Yeah.
The party affiliation data, to complete Richard's point about realignment, the groups that Republicans needed to add as Republican identifiers, people, longstanding independents, many of them ancestrally Democratic, many of them recently Democratic. And these are two different groups, OG 2016 MAGA and new 2024 MAGA. And OG 2016 MAGA were the industrial Midwest and anti-war voters in the Midwest. Those were the groups that shifted from Obama to Trump en masse in places like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa, parts of Michigan, parts of Wisconsin, so forth. The new MAGA were Hispanic, African-American, younger voters, as many women as men, a lot of Maha moms in that group, particularly young moms. And those groups is what made Georgia safe, North Carolina safe, made Arizona safe, made Nevada safe. It added the South and Southwest that were swinging to the Democrats, and it's what made Texas and Florida wipeouts. The problem is both groups are divorcing from the Republican Party brand. Both groups are divorcing from the MAGA identification. So that you dig in, like one of the biggest groups that, as Richard had, over the weekend, people that previously identified as MAGA that no longer do. And what you see is it's a combination of these Maha young moms, young women disaffiliating from MAGA, young Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans. Pay attention, Florida. We'll get to that. We'll do our House and Senate breakdown, even what that recent special elections meant down there. The Mexican American new MAGA vote, the African American new MAGA vote, the Zoomer and millennial and young Gen Xer new MAGA vote is gone. They are off the train entirely. Yeah. Then the OG MAGA is increasingly jumping ship en masse. So, that's why So you look at that party affiliation, and what you're seeing
that's ours, which led Gallup. We tried warning everybody, and people were up there like my little parrot fake wannabe people's pundits were like, he's lying about his own data. You don't have all our data. How the hell would you know? It was obvious. Look at that high in 24, Robert. Just complete blown historic political capital. They were at like 40% ID, which you followed our poll for years. That never happened. Never, ever, ever. And they blew it. And then Gallup came out, a day or 2 days later, and backed up completely what we were saying. That's Gallup now. But I'll share, this is what Robert was really looking for right here, which is the historic table, which is, you can go on Gallup and get that too, guys. But it's right here. This is a disaster for Republicans. It's predictable.
Completely. And what this mostly is are people leaving the Republican brand, or independents no longer affiliating with the Republican brand. So and disproportionately, it's these two groups. So, for example, I suspect the House swing and the Senate swing and the statewide swing will not be uniform. I suspect in parts of the Deep South, where you have a big evangelical boomer vote, you're not going to see as much movement. You might see 5 to 6 point movement towards the Democrats. Whereas in the industrial Midwest, in the historic anti-war parts of the Midwest, in Mexican-American Southwest Texas and Arizona and Nevada, in Puerto Rican Central Florida, potentially even in Cuban South Florida, you're going to see movement that's more like 15 points, 20 points 25 points towards the Democratic margin. Movement that, quite frankly, we have never seen in the modern era.
Yeah.
These levels of movement that basically all the groups that, if you want to look at a baseline, go back and look at 2012, look at 2008. Those are going to be the Democratic margins in parts of the industrial and rural Midwest, in parts of the Southwest, and potentially in Florida. And so
you can see it right there in the previous MAGA identification. That's, I mean, South Atlantic, Florida is obviously huge in the South Atlantic, but what you're saying, the South Atlantic is above the national average on previous MAGA identification. All right. Where else is above the national average? East, North, Central. I mean, this is a disaster. This is like this is everything, everywhere that made the Trump coalition a winning coalition. That's what Robert and I were talking about off camera when I put this together and put it on locals. I was like, bro, you got to see this. And we're going to aggregate this so the sample sizes get bigger and bigger over time. But this is an absolute disaster, Robert. Look, did you see by college, by non-college? I mean, it's mostly non-college. These are their coalition voters saying, I'm out.
And to give you an idea, for the first time in the history of the Trump era, non-college, non-Hispanic white voters have a net negative approval rating of President Trump in a range of surveys. And that even in those surveys, which are a Democratic-leaning survey group, they've never had that. That has never happened before. And if you dug in deeper, what you would find is it's peaking in parts of the industrial Midwest, the historically, ancestrally anti-war Midwest, in the Southwest. So in parts of the Southeast. So that's why you're going to see, that's why, like today, the Republicans, put out their Senate expected spending map, and they really believe they can spend their way out of this problem politically. They're going to discover otherwise. It's going to
all this money, man, on like John Cornyn and, like 100+ into John Cornyn. I don't want to give anything away yet. Plus, I haven't really looked at it since Easter. But like all of this money to defeat Thomas Massie, all of this money to go after to keep Ken Paxton from beating John Cornyn, like all of this money on these stupid pet projects and just to make people rich or because someone is mad at somebody else. That's money you desperately needed to forget about pickup seats. You need to make sure you don't get blown completely out of the water and Murkowski leaves the Republican Party, because if Collins goes down, she's out, bro. So she's out.
Before we shift to the Senate map, the other thing to think about in terms of the context of this election, you have the generic ballot trending heavily Democratic. You have party affiliation and self-identification trending heavily Democratic.
Yeah.
You're starting to see voter registration trend Democratic. You're seeing if you use Google search terms, search trends, you use a range of social media sources. You look at Patrick Basham as polling by source of information. And what you're seeing is the people that are ahead of the curve information-wise, people who rely on podcasts and social media rather than mainstream media, are way ahead of where this is trending. All of it point to a Democratic blowout in the fall. One other thing to keep in mind is the nationalization of elections won't just impact the House, won't just impact the Senate. But what we're seeing in 2026 in special elections is what we saw in 2025 in the November elections in New Jersey, Virginia, parts of Pennsylvania, Texas, and Georgia, is these nationalized elections are reaching to the governorship. They're reaching to the state House, state Senate, state Supreme Court. As you mentioned, what you watch Wisconsin tomorrow, North Carolina Supreme Court likely to flip Democrat. And it goes all the way down to like county commissioner, town supervisor, local sheriff. Expect to see a Democratic blowout everywhere at every level of office in 2026.
Tax collector, Robert, my buddy's friend, my buddy's wife survived by it was like 100 votes. It was so close. But that's a nonpartisan position, and she barely eked it out. Everyone else got destroyed, even in other nonpartisan posts. And then you had, of course, he went down because he was a partisan, but he had been a partisan supervisor for almost 2 decades. He's weathered blue waves, and he just could not weather this, and he just got taught. And he was not alone. Just to give people an idea, because I forgot to say this, guys, an average. Okay, let me give it like this: which is a fairly easy model. The generic ballot model is a fairly easy model to understand. It uses regression analysis, right? And I could show you the scatter plots from it if you want. But a 1 point swing average, all right, in the generic ballot average margin, a 1 point swing is associated with nearly 3 seats. It's technically like 2.6 House seats, and then about a 0.4 Senate seats. All right. So it may not sound like a lot. It just may not. But in this one, it's unbelievable. Guys, depending on where this generic ballot ends up, like the high end is like 54 seats. And I know that sounds crazy because it just does. And the map is it's more favorable to Democrats. The House map is more favorable to Democrats this year than it was when Trump ran and the Republicans were on the ballot with him in 24, and then it was in 22, and certainly when it was the map in 18. So like, this is what I think people need to understand. You're not dealing on the same battlefield. Like, you're not fighting on the same battlefield. It's the structural advantage that Republicans, they had going into the 2020 census is gone. And then they started a redistricting war that they started the war and then shot themselves in the head. Like, this is how stupid Republicans are, bro. They're like, think about it. It's like no man's land. It's World War I. You're like, yeah, charge, pop. And you shoot yourself in the head before you even try to cross no man's land. You're just stupid. Like, this is what the Republican Party does to themselves. And then that, of course, it's like to pretend like, because people, they want to fall into their like false sense of security that Ohio is so strongly Republican. No, it's not. It's strongly Trumpian. Bernie Moreno barely won in 24, guys, against Sherrod Brown. He barely won. Trump carried the damn state by 13 points. Bernie Moreno ran 10 points behind Donald Trump. I was like, people don't understand this. Oh, it's such a strong state. That's ridiculous. Trump carried it by 13. Right. Trump carried it by 13, dummy. Not the current sitting senator who barely eked it out. And by the way, I hate to tell you, but John Husted is no Bernie Moreno. Boy, Bernie is a good retail politician. He can connect with people well. He's not as good as Vance was, but he was still a good candidate. Like, even with all of his baggage, and it almost made him look more relatable. Right? It made him look more like an average person. And I'm not going to get into his baggage. I'm not doing that because it's some crazy shit. But it is. And he weathered it well. He did well. He was going against Brown, who's like the strongest outside of Tim Ryan, who was a really strong Democratic candidate coming from the Ohio River Valley, but in the northern part of it, old Obama country that Trump turned into Trump country, like Mahoney, for instance. Right? That's not going to happen against John Husted, folks. You think Sandusky is going to look like it did for Donald Trump with Sherrod Brown versus John Epstein class Husted, who they're destroying right now? It's not. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. And Bernie, I really probably should get the map up because people really don't believe.
Well,
it's
in fact, what's fascinating today, if you want to see the sort of delusional world a lot of the boomer cons are in, so the Republican Senate Coalition Committee puts out its puts out basically its map and where it plans to spend money. And a whole bunch of normie Republicans were shocked to say, why are we spending money in Alaska? That's a safe seat. Why are we spending money in Ohio? That's a safe seat. Why are we spending money in Iowa? That's a safe seat. No, it ain't.
No,
Ohio is going to go down. Well, yeah, we'll pull up the map. But the reason why they have all this money is what Richard and I talked about in November, which was these seats are up for grabs.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, you guys are idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. You got Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that jazz. Go back and watch our show right after the November election. We learned the lesson of that election. I definitely learned the lesson of that election, which was a tidal wave was coming. And we said at the time, if Trump goes to war in Iran, if Trump doesn't reverse a bunch of these things, this is going to become a tsunami. And that's what this is, a tsunami. And now Republicans are implicitly acknowledging that by planning to spend most of their money defending Ohio, defending Iowa, defending Alaska.
Yep.
Double-digit Republican Trump wins from 2024 because that's how bad it is.
Here is Trumbull County. Moreno won it by about 5 points. You can see like it's 3.5 points, guys. It's not 4 points. It's 3.5, 50 to 46.5. He won by 3.5 points, which is 10 points behind Donald Trump. All right. That is it. So, because like I say that and people are like, that's not true. Is that true? Is it true? It's true. He ran 10 points behind Donald Trump. All right. And that's with Trump on the ballot. And it's like we act like we don't have another example, because I do give Trump credit that he's like one of those guys. If anybody can pull out historic first, it's always Trump, but we do know there are limitations to Trumpism, brother. 18 is a great example of limitation. He could not stop Iowa and Ohio from swinging left. He could. I mean, yeah, Mike DeWine held on and he won by a few points over Richard Cordray, but Jim Renacci went down, bro. He's a terrible candidate, but so was John Huston. All right. I mean, he went down. Sherrod Brown stomped Jim Renacci. And Iowa, they lost everything. Iowa, even at R plus, I think it was 8 at that point, even at R plus 8, they lost everything. By the way, the special elections in Florida that Robert cited before, Republicans in all 3 of those districts actually improved on their turnout advantage over Democrats from 24. And yet they still lost those 2, specifically those 2 were a disaster. They still lost, which tells you what, Robert? It was the electorate in Trump's district was R plus 9.5, and they lost. That was more than it was in 24. So that means they must have lost independence by roughly what margin?
Yeah, 40 points.
40 points, guys. 40 points. I mean, Jesus, it's not hard.
That's the
basic
disaster.
Arithmetic.
Yeah, and with briefly on Ohio, my prediction is Moreno wins by at least 5 points. That he wins going away.
You mean Sherrod Brown?
Sherrod Brown.
Yeah.
That Sherrod Brown wins by at least 5 points. That it's announced early in the night that northeastern corridor is going to be blue, no longer red. Places old James Trafficant country. By the way, a congressman who said the Israel lobby owns Congress all the way back in the 1990s, James Trafficant, just saying, then somehow gets criminally prosecuted. Of all the congressmen, he gets prosecuted. Draw your own conclusions. And then large parts of southeastern Appalachian parts of Ohio will not be nearly as ruby red as it's been in the Trump era. You're going to start to see Ohio realign to a lean Democratic or neutral state. That's where this is going.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh over you, because what you're saying is very important. It is like we're going to be back to talking about the importance of the Buckeye State again. That's how bad Republicans have regressed here. All right. But I'm laughing because you and I told people Ohio was in trouble and it was going to go back. This is Christmas, right? Let me find Christmas, Robert. Here's Christmas. Republicans still 62% likelihood. And you and I were like, bro, these people are crazy. They don't understand basic shit, And now here we are. Look at this. A year later, and it's Democratic Party 59%. Barnes has lost his mind. Baris has lost his mind. They've lost their minds. They're TDS. No, we're just not retarded. We're just not retarded. We're not shills, guys. We're not shills. We're never going to be shills. That's how you survive in this business. Like so many of these other people, if you want to pat on your ass and if you want people to tell you it's going to be okay and lie to you, you can go follow Larry Schweikert or something. That's not what we do over here. All right. This is real. It's like, unfortunately, the left no longer has a complete monopoly on fake election analysts who have no objectivity, Robert, and are, just totally grifting their audiences. Until I came along, that's what it was. And it was like dominated by the left. And now, unfortunately, since the advent of the People's Pundit and the others that are like trying to do a good job, there's been a lot of other cons. And now I think there's more on the right now than there are on the left. It's just that the guys on the left are on like CNN. You know what I mean? Like the Henry Enton's got his own little clip and stuff. You know what I mean? Like his own little segment. Right? That's the only difference, though. You go to Twitter or X, right? And it's dominated by fake right-wing election experts. It's just like grifter after grifter after grifter. And it wouldn't be honest. It wouldn't be consistent, intellectually honest to not point that out. It is worse on the right than it is on the left now. Like, I don't know. We got like derelictmans all over the place on the right. And it's like how are they even like, how are they not totally humiliated? Iowa will be next, by the way. Actually, let's look it up, Robert. I mean, let's look it up. Let's see where Iowa is, if people have caught on to that.
Yeah, I was the next one I was going to go to. So Ohio, safely Democratic in 2026, 5 points or more in favor of Sherrod Brown. And and Iowa is a seat, another one that I said back in November that we talked about was going to be up for grabs.
It is.
I would now say, unless Jim Carlin wins the Republican nomination, he would have to, because he's got Maha support, he's got OG anti-war MAGA support. If Carlin wins the nomination, then it's going to be close. But assuming the Trump endorsee wins, if the Trump endorsee wins, this Iowa Senate seat will go Democratic by at least 5 points. Not only that, by the way, I think the 3 of the 4 House seats are also going to go Democratic. I think the governorship.
They did in 18. They did. Yep. This is what I'm trying to tell people. It was R+8, and they still got their pushed in. All right? Trying to watch my language. They got pushed in 2018. Go back and look. Do I have to correct the record on everything? Iowa is the quintessential pivot state. 31 pivot counties, more than any other state in the nation. Doesn't matter if it's white. It doesn't matter if it's R+8. These independents swing, and they swing hard. Barack Obama won it by 12. He won it by 12 points. And even when he slipped nationally, he still won it comfortably by a little over 6 against Romney. And then Trump comes around and completely does. We have an actual really cool. I'll see if I can find it just to show people how swingy Iowa is, because we tried to explain this. Like, the Seltzer poll was a joke because it was always like Trump's on the ballot. That's not possible. That's not going to happen. But when Trump is not on the ballot, Iowa is the state, Robert, the state to swing. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the margins. Actually, I have it. I'm going to pull it up real quick just so people can see. This is how much Iowa swung against Barack Obama. And look at those margins.
I was just for those that don't understand, Iowa's a very swingy state. So Iowa tends to move massively. And it's because of 2 reasons. It's a very rural state, but it's made up of a unique set of demographics. Yeah. It has some Norwegian voters, it has German Catholic voters, it has border populist voters. It is a very populist voting constituency, going all the way back to, the late 1800s. So it's a group that's deeply anti-war. It's a state that historically has been anti-war. So whenever anybody gets involved in a war, they usually run into trouble there. Yeah. It's a state that it swung heavily towards the anti-war candidate historically against the war candidate historically. And it should not be a shock to people if they understand the nature. It wasn't a shock to us that Iowa swung so heavily to Trump. Yeah. Just like it's not, now it's going to swing heavily against Trump. He's going to get whipped in Iowa. He endorsed the wrong person in the Republican primaries, someone who's a big Nikki Haley pro-war neocon. That's who he's endorsed in the Senate. If she does prevail, then she's going to get crushed in the general election. This is going to be another one. This is going to be something like D+8. The Democratic Senate candidate, my prediction, wins easily. They call it early on election night. Iowa goes Democrat for the U.S. Senate.
You will see it early, too, because you know exactly where Republicans need to win and by what margins. That's the amazing thing about it. You're talking about 4 districts. You break up 4 districts. You can see easily what their margins are and how far a candidate's running behind Donald Trump, and you'll know pretty quickly whether or not that seat is gone. And look, these are just so people know what they're looking at, and for people who are listening audio only maybe, this is the 31 pivot counties in the state of Iowa that I just referenced. And obviously the ones highlighted in yellow are just disgusting swings, unseen by basically everybody except for a few of us, which dates back to 2016. I mean, polling, like Jefferson and that candidate that Trump endorsed, guys, she literally helped Nikki Haley win the one county in Iowa that she won against Donald Trump in the caucus. She was out there getting Democrats to register as Republicans on caucus day and getting Nikki Haley a 1 vote win in Johnson County. That's your Trump endorsed candidate in Iowa right now. This is insane. But Trump is going to leave the Republican Party in a worse state than he found it. And it's measurable. You can already see it, Robert. Where are the Matt Gaetzes, right? Where are all the solid MAGA voices in the United States Congress? They're gone. They're just all gone. I don't know about worse than 16, but certainly worse than it was in 18, in 20, in 22, and in 24. It will be devoid of real MAGA voices. And all of the people, just so his advisors can get rich off their super PACs, all of the people that he's endorsing are horrible, horrible candidates. And even if they win, they're going to leave you with a very, very shitty, caucus, conference, whatever you want to call it. Look at that. Des Moines, 23 points, guys, from Obama's margin in 04. 23-point swing. Jackson County, 24.4. Especially the eastern side of the state, Robert. Those eastern pivots, we call them the eastern pivot counties, guys. Those swing hard. And it's just ridiculous. It's like they don't have anybody who really knows their own coalition. That's what it really feels like to me, bro. It does.
And if Jim Carlin, if you're in Iowa, support Jim Carlin. He's somebody who can win those.
Yeah,
he can win those German Catholics in the east. The Norwegians up, those Norwegians up along the border that overlap with the Wisconsin border, that can win those Southwest, the old school Missouri style Jacksonian Democratic ancestrally populist voters can hold that vote. But if it's not Carlin, if it's her, which it was what Trump wants to have happen, then it's going to be a wipeout, is my prediction. Now we can go next.
Sioux City evangelicals, Robert, coming out in droves and voting for this woman. Do you see that? Hell no.
In the western corners of the state. Now I think I was going to be another place where in the Northwest you might see smaller swings than you see everywhere else. But if you next we can go up to Maine, looking at it first from the Senate, briefly on the House, and I think the very populist blue collar candidate is going to crush Janet Mills in the Democratic primary. He's an anti-war guy. He's increasingly an anti-Israel lobby guy. Susan Collins has long held on there by a bifurcated support of making major inroads into the old Bushite Portland Southeast, holding a lot of those boomer upper middle class voters. But what saved her in the Trump era is piggybacking and riding the Trump coattails. Because she's only run once in the Trump era, 2020. Riding those, and she's mostly, 2014, very favorable map. 2020, piggybacking off of Trump. 2026 will be the harshest map she's run in since 2008. And the working class North is another one of these groups that was OG MAGA 2016. French Canadians, think Stephen King character country. Very working class.
Haven, guys. Some people some people call us cursed. We call it troubled. That's
exactly. A very populist. Very populist area of the state. Maine represented Maine's 2nd congressional district. Trump won presidentially by 8 points. It's done very well there. The Golden retired, and so that was a great opportunity for a Republican pickup, and Collins to hold on again. However, is it Plattner? How do you say his last name?
I call him Plattner, and I keep getting corrected, and that's all right. Sorry, Jared. You can come on and correct it. You're welcome on the show. He's welcome on the show, that guy, bro.
Oh, yeah. He's very, very blue collar. He represents that part of the district. And so the problem is,
he does. The problem. He looks like it. They're cooked.
Okay, Trump doesn't have any more coattails there anyway. He isn't on the ballot either. So what's going to happen is that in the blue-collar North, Collins is going to lose that vote, not going to keep up those Trumpian margins there. He's going to win that vote massively, and that's why I predict Collins is out, and she's out. It was another one of these that will be called early on election night.
Plattner.
And then the Maine 2nd, which everybody thought on the Republican side was an easy pickup, my prediction is they will not pick it up. It will vote Democrat. It's a historically anti-war part of the country. It's a ancestrally Democratic area of the country. This was Trump MAGA, Trump OG MAGA, country. It is not Trump new MAGA or new version, not Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro MAGA part of the country.
They hate that.
So,
they hate
completely.
Hate that version of republicanism, guys. Hate it. Hate it. Which is why Trump is the only one who could carry the 2nd district in the first place. I mean, we just this shouldn't be shocking to anybody. By the way, what is it at now? 72% odds that, or on Kalshi anyway, it's at 72% that she goes down.
And I would, for the Senate odds, I would give for Maine 95% chance. Colin,
it's got to be, and Plattner's at 92, which I think is also one.
In Ohio, 90% chance that Brown wins. In Iowa, 85% chance the Democrat wins. And North Carolina, I'd say 99% chance the Democrat wins. That's going to be a blowout.
I'm not even going to be able to
those
watch,
4 seats flip the Senate. That gives us 51 Democratic senators. As we've met in that scenario, Fetterman does not switch back to the Republicans.
Why would he?
Because Murkowski will vote with the Democrats. Makes no sense for Fetterman to be in the minority. So that will basically, once they form in January of 2027, you're talking about at least 52 Senate seats. But here's the additional ones I see flipping. Alaska. We can go to whatever the Alaskan odds are. Alaska is a very popular Democrat running, number one. Number two, Trump won big, but people forget there are a lot of third-party and independent votes out of Alaska.
Yet. There's no market yet for Alaska, unless there's one unpredicted. Is there one unpredicted, guys?
Or on Polymarket.
Okay. Alaska governor, Alaska Senate is now, it's unpredicted. It's at, here, I'll put it up. It's at 60% Democratic. Oh my God.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, it probably should be closer to 75%. Because the only chance the Republican incumbent has in Alaska is if he comes out against the war. If he was smart, that's what he would be doing right now. He would be establishing his look at. I think Lauren Boebert might be able to hold her seat. Why? Because she's out there saying she's not going to spend money on the war. She voted for the Epstein file disclosure. She's in a tough race. But what's going to save? The only thing that could save her, and you're seeing people like Mace pick up on this. Yeah. Here she is running for governorship of South Carolina. Why do you think she's out there saying, I'm not going to authorize $200 billion to put ground troops on the ground in Iraq? I don't see any real plan here for the Iran war conflict going forward. Right,
I think she is ahead. I can tell you right now, Mace is ahead. I think she is, bro.
And I think she's going to surge because she's going to pick up the Israel lobby skeptical vote and the anti-war vote, which is much bigger in South Carolina than people realize. And so I think the only way Alaska flips back or Republican hold is if he comes out aggressively in the month of April against the war. He's not smart enough to do that. Alaska has a big libertarian vote. Alaska has a big anti-war vote. Alaska right now will go easily Democratic if he keeps his mouth shut and keeps cheerleading and seal clapping this war throughout the month of April.
Mace is ahead by 6. She's ahead. I just looked at it.
Yeah,
and
I can't show they're underestimating that.
They're
underestimating that, by the way, in the prediction markets. There's a range of markets that don't. Yeah, I think if you look at it, she's considered a big underdog to win the South Carolina governor's race. They're not paying attention. There's a reason why she joined the Epstein files.
Wilson?
Yeah.
Allen is too, though. Allen is behind her. He's the one who's 6 points behind her.
Exactly. What people are not picking
out loud to everybody. Shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. What people don't understand is Mace is paying close attention to these dynamics. There's a reason Mace joined the Epstein files transparency.
Surging though right now.
and notice she initially came out Mace for the Iran war. It was lukewarm, but for it. She quickly saw what was happening in the data, quickly reversed and said, no ground troops, no more money for the war period. So Trump doesn't have support to get his money through to the House. That's not there. They're in there, we'll get $1.7 trillion. No, you won't. Yeah. That budget will not pass. It will not pass. It's already DOA in the House of Representatives. Right now, if they held a vote on authorization for the war, the deauthorization is what would pass, not authorization. Boebert's off the war train. Mace is off the war train. I think it's, Warren Davidson from Ohio was already off of it. Thomas Massie was already off of it. And the 4 Democrats that originally voted for it realized they made a huge mistake and have already reversed course. So he doesn't have money for authorization for the war, least of all $200 billion, $1.7 trillion, any of that budget money. But those are people that people that will overachieve and overperform are the ones that vote against and campaign against the Israel lobby and campaign against this war. Now they're so slow.
How did they not see this? Like, I just don't understand. Weren't they alive during the 2006 debacle? Like, Democrats could even have supported it. It doesn't matter. You started it. Cernovich was right. Get them all on the record. I get that. I hear what you're saying. But Mike, they were on the record for the authorization for the use of force in Iraq. They decided it was politically toxic. They jumped off. They were voting against sending our boys the supplies they needed. They weren't punished for it. They were rewarded big time in 2 back-to-back elections. It cost Hillary Clinton the effing nomination. That issue alone cost Hillary Clinton her seat at her turn. Because this guy Barack Obama came out of nowhere, and guess what he did? He opposed the Iraq war. And he came out of nowhere, and he was like, this was stupid. Hillary voted for it. And he won in Iowa based on that alone. That was the central issue. My God, Robert, I just don't know how you make these mistakes over and over again. I guess there's just like a level of like stupidity and a level of self-delusion that I can't get my head around it. No matter how much I try to put myself in their position, like it doesn't matter how much you want something to be true or, like this guy is over here true socialing. I wish the Supreme Court would watch Mark Levin on birthright citizenship. Bro, Chief Justice John Roberts doesn't give two flying what Mark Levin has to think. But that's all he has left is to go to truth and say, watch Life, Liberty, and Levin. You know how many people in the core demo watched Life, Liberty, and Levin last time he told them to? In the core demo, right? These younger demos that you need, that like 40,000 on a cable news, Robert. I mean, come on. By the time we're done here, by the end of the week, this Rumble episode will get more than that, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
and so wrap up the Senate. I want to shift to 5 seats, and I think one of these seats will shift. But before we get there, Maine flips Democratic. North Carolina flips Democratic. Alaska flips Democratic. Ohio flips Democratic. Iowa flips Democratic. Those 5 seats. Michigan safely Democratic. Georgia safely Democratic. So those perceived competitive open seats or incumbent seats that they thought were for grabs are not. So that gives the Democrats not only the Senate, but at least 52 Senate seats. Fetterman stays with the Democrats. Murkowski flips side. That gives Democrats a 53-47 edge once they form in January. But I believe they will have at least one of these other 5 states that I think will flip.
All right, we're going to go to Maine, you said. We're going to do Maine. Let's make it light. Let's make it light blue just because she's an incumbent. North Carolina's cooked. Let's just call that what it is. Qantas got the closest number. I understand where he's coming from. I think you just modeled the electorate a little too Republican. I do, but he is getting like Whatley's down like 15 points with independents in North Carolina. We got 18, but also Cooper was taking like 16% of the Republican vote. And by the way, like I thought at first that was bullshit when I did it. And then like my neighbors, they're all Republicans. This is a military area. They're voting for Roy Cooper. Like a lot of them are. Like they're like, hey, have you pulled the race in our state yet? And I'm like, yeah, and they're like, I'm voting for Cooper. It's like, fuck it. Like, what?
In fact, I mean, there were above average number of veterans in your former used to be identified as MAGA, no longer do.
Yeah, there was.
So yeah, Ohio blue, Iowa blue, Alaska blue, Maine blue, North Carolina blue, Georgia and Michigan blue. But here's the states that I would put as
a third of what you just said, Robert. I just looked at it. It's a third of veterans that are independents said they used to identify as MAGA, but no longer do. It's 40% among active duty military. Oh my God.
Yeah. For those pretending that these guys are all cheerleading this idiotic war.
God,
so yeah, we can flip Alaska blue too. Now here's the ones I would move.
Oh yeah, what am I missing here? I'm missing Alaska.
Just Alaska.
Okay.
And Iowa. And I would flip Iowa blue.
Okay.
Now here's the ones I would move to toss up. Nebraska.
Oh, shoot.
Texas.
Okay.
South Carolina.
Texas is a toss up.
Florida. Montana. So
Florida, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to move into toss-up category based on what we're seeing with the Hispanic vote. These are
South Carolina,
one of these
bro.
5.
South Carolina.
And then Nebraska. Oh, yeah, you already got Nebraska.
Yep.
So that gives you an idea. So we've covered before Texas and South Carolina. If Paxton wins the nomination, he might be able to get out enough MAGA Maha OG voters to pull it out. But people forget, but the Southwest Texas is going to be more Democratic than it's maybe ever been in the modern era.
Texas will be the closest Senate race as of right now. Like if the election was tomorrow, guys, the margin in Texas, just in case you're making bets on this, the margin in Texas will be the closest. I mean, guys, Byron Donalds is only up like 4 points in Florida. I mean, that's how bad this is. I mean, it's a disaster.
So that's Texas. South Carolina,
9-point swing.
It's all about whether Dans or Lynch can knock off Graham. If Graham is the nominee, now I think he will be in a runoff now, but if Graham is the nominee, South Carolina will go blue. So I'm only putting it as a toss-up because I think there's at least a 50% chance Dans or Lynch knock him off. But if Graham is the nominee, this will go back to lean Democratic.
Here is the latest on that, by the way. So for people who don't think Robert's telling the truth, this is what we do, and this is what we do well. Who is going to vote is the question, okay? And that combined with what we're seeing with the veterans being veterans and active duty military just being so much, and I'll show you that in a second too, but I don't think I can't share just this part. I think I can. Here it is. If Lindsey Graham is a Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, would you vote for him as the party's nominee, consider voting for the Democratic nominee, a third party nominee, or not vote at all? This question may look familiar to many of you who have been following me for a very long time. This is the Trump or bust vote. Okay, do you remember that? Like Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley cannot win a general election because of this effing question. This is a big deal. You can see only about 2/3 of the Republicans, period, like the coalition, would say they will vote for Lindsey Graham. That's it. They won't. So, I mean, that is, Robert, that is a disastrous turnout waiting to happen. I would consider voting for a third party as 13%. And by the way, they may have the option to do that. I would consider voting for the Democratic nominee, 12%, which based on what I'm seeing in their neighbor to the north, doesn't really surprise me. I would not vote at all, 8%. Guys, add it all up, you're losing a third of your vote. When Lindsey, and that does not happen with Mark Lynch and Paul Dans. I will just say this, though. And of course, I have to disclose that I have polled for Paul Dans. All right. Just to be fair and honest here. I strongly believe that Republicans need a low country Republican to represent them in the Senate. The votes don't come from the places that everybody seems to think. It's like they totally missed the Trump era. How did Trump beat the Bush machine in South Carolina? He didn't do it by going pound for pound with him, with evangelicals in the upcountry. All right. Like Oconee is Lindsey Graham's home county. He did it by realizing state-to-state migration changed the state dramatically, and he won Horry County. He won the PD and the Low Country, and he did it overwhelming. The votes are going in the future to be in the Low Country and in PD. All right, it's just not enough. I'm just saying, like, you'll wind up, and I'm sure Mark is a very nice guy. I'm just saying, like, you'll have to swap him out in 6 years anyway or lose the state. I have been saying this about the South for years and nobody wanted to hear it. They almost lost Mississippi in a governor's election. Georgia is basically gone unless Donald Trump catches lightning in a bottle again. This is the reality. Republicans needed this younger, less white coalition that they're squandering right now in order to be able to even win these Sunbelt states. They're getting killed right now in them because of that. And I mean, you put Lindsey Graham back in there because Donald Trump told you to, and you deserve what you get. I mean, that's it. If you even win, which I don't think you will. I don't, Robert. I don't. I think they put a viable person forward, and Lindsey Graham will be defeated. He will be defeated.
The next state we're going to go to that I put in the toss-up category that would probably shock people the most is Florida. So if you look at Florida, Florida has a heavy Puerto Rican vote. It has a heavy Cuban vote, has a decent Mexican-American vote, It has a lot of working class industrial Northerners that have come down and relocated there. So this was a very Trump trending group between 2016 and 2024. But that means it's also a jumping off the Trump train trending group. Yeah. This is why in the House district, where Republicans outvoted Democrats by a 9-point margin, in Trump's own district,
his own district
he physically lives in, they just lost in the special election to a Democrat because the independents in that district voted by a 40-point margin for the Democratic candidate. You're seeing in Richard's poll about people that are used to identify as MAGA abandoning it, disproportionate Hispanic participation, including Cuban Americans and Puerto Ricans.
Yeah,
the Puerto Ricans are big in the Central Valley, the Central Corridor, the I-4 corridor. Then you have a Cuban vote that's very big. People forget the Cuban vote was not initially on the Trump train. That was a group that jumped onto it.
Yes,
a lot of them are younger voters.
Romney split them with Barack Obama, guys.
Yeah, people forget Barack Obama won Florida.
Yeah.
So in 2012. So this is a state that, yes, and a lot of its new migrants
it's state migration
are from the industrial Midwest and the Southwest. These are not, in other words, these are the same groups of people that are trending Democratic disproportionately in those states, assuming they won't. I was curious to watch these special elections to see, would Florida stay an outlier in the Republican direction, or was it trending like their other demographics were in the other states?
Yeah.
The answer is they're trending in the same direction.
What
does that mean? Florida's back to being a toss-up state, a tight, close, competitive state.
Ron DeSantis has been trying for like 6 months to get make the party understand, and so people get it. This one of the reasons why they're backstabbing JD Vance in the White House, because they want Marco Rubio. They want JD Vance to be the bag boy, to hold all the bags for when did you see the Newsweek article, by the way, over the weekend? Finally, the news is starting to report what Barnes and I have been telling you for a year. You talk to any Democrat in DC, they'll happily tell you this is a plan. It's a good plan, a viable plan to dismantle the Trump administration. Somebody's got to hold the bag. I fear they're going to try to leave it for JD Vance when all these impeachments and everything are done. Carville's ranting and raving about it because he knows, like, just firing Pam Bondi is not going to save you for what she did in the first year in office. Now, it helps because she won't be able to be impeached, but it's not going to help you when it comes to the pardon investigations and all the other stuff Democrats are going to throw on you. And the center of power, they don't want it in Ohio in the Republican Party, which is stupid. You do want it in the Midwest. You do want JD Vance to be the standard bearer. Just the level of retardedness. And I'm sorry, you guys, I'm not trying to insult you with that word, but it really isn't stupidity, or like you have to be simple to not understand what Robert and I are saying at this point, right? And they don't want that. They want Bushism to return, which Trump is letting them do. And that will be controlled because the power structure right now is centered in Florida, centered in South Florida. They want that. And DeSantis has been out of the loop for that power center, even though he's the governor of that state. He's been out of the loop, and he has been desperately trying to get them to understand that Florida is, of course, he doesn't think they're going to lose it, but he thinks it's so close, you could lose it again soon. And in an environment like this, you may end up really shocked that Byron Donalds lost a governor's race, or there's a Senate seat. I think Senate's going to be harder because it's partisan loyalties are harder, but he explicitly said the difference is that we lied to people. This is Ron DeSantis saying this publicly, kind of innuendos, but privately, just flat out saying you lied to people. You can't lie to people like this and then not expect to be punished. You can't. Florida's only was this red. I think he said specifically, it was only this red because we kept our promise, or something like that. We kept our promises. That's why Florida was this red. But don't F around and find out. Most of those state-to-state migrants, guys, are coming from Ohio, Illinois, because we actually ask when we poll Florida, where did you come from? It's a place of birth question. We have it in place. Have you recently moved? And it's Ohio, California is a big one too. So is New York. But it's the industrial Midwest, like places like Michigan, Ohio. That's where they're fleeing and going to Florida. And these people don't really have what you think they have, which is like this uber loyalty to the Republican Party. They just don't. And if they got there and they wanted to vote in a primary, what do you think they registered as? I mean, a Republican. Voting in a Democratic primary in Florida has been kind of pointless, hasn't it, recently? Well, it doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. By the way, when Barack Obama barely won Florida, they had like an 800,000 voter registration advantage. And then when he went against Romney, they still had, I think, like 600, right? And so Republicans think, well, we got 1.3, we got, we're cooking. Not really, dude. Things change. Nothing stays the same ever in politics, ever. Coalitions evolve. Go ahead.
The other next toss-up seat is Texas. And if you look at Texas, now I think we're in a little bit better position than we were a couple of weeks ago because despite the efforts of Chris LaCivita and others, Trump has not endorsed John Cornyn for the Senate seat in Texas. Yeah. Ken Paxton has support amongst a lot of MAGA and Maha, especially community. And that may help him eke out a win, but it will be, as Richard pointed out, very, very tight. Reason is twofold. The suburban areas around Dallas and Houston and Austin have been trending Democratic since 2016. And what counterbalanced it was big Trump margins in ancestrally Democratic areas in rural Texas and especially Southwest Texas. The Democratic, for the first time, I think maybe ever in the modern era, Democrats outvoted Republicans in the primaries.
In pound-for-pound contests, it is. Yep.
Which has never happened before with contested contest on both sides. And so that, and where that heavily peaked, like, for example, I thought Crockett might eke out the win, thought she was a 50-50 shot. She ended up losing to Tallarico because of a massive surge in Hispanic West Texas, in Mexican West Texas, and South Texas.
Actually,
South Texas voted massively to the Democratic side. More people voted in some of these counties in the Democratic primary than even voted for Kamala Harris in the general election.
Yep.
This is historically unprecedented, unparalleled. The massive, and by the way, some people have asked, there's people in the White House that are, the reason is not because of mass deportations, because these voters favor mass deportations. The Trump administration is right now considering mass amnesty itself. It's right now considering granting amnesty itself to Trump is calling it long-term work visas to anybody who came here more than 5 years ago.
I knew that project was going to be misrepresented. I knew it, and I didn't even sign onto it without getting a guarantee that any presentation of the data and the findings will be done with my explicit approval. And they went behind my back with the donors and they pulled that bullshit, Robert. I know Robert's going to pop on the corner here and do something. I'll be back in a second, but it's almost time to end it anyway. But this is going to be a huge regret for me, folks. I never should have agreed to do this project, and I knew it was at the time going to be used for this. The fact is, all they had to do with mass deportations was 3 simple recommendations, and they weren't even recommended. Number 1 had to be take the masks off. All right. It's not that people didn't support mass deportations. They did. They didn't support how they were being carried out. So the recommendations were remove the masks. You look like the Gestapo. There's absolutely no point to have an SS or whatever running around the country. If Scott Halverston wasn't allowed to wear a mask, Robert, and got drugged through the streets of Fallujah, then what the hell is ICE being allowed to wear a mask for? It was bad politics. It was retarded. It was unbelievably unwise. And they didn't listen. The second was to get control over the arresting environment. You had problems with Democrats. I mean, by the way, on the masks, it wasn't that these people were using like advanced software everywhere. Like you could find examples of that. That's not what was happening. local Democratic officials were doxing those agents. All right. And Republicans didn't have the balls to do anything to them. So they made it about they like made this a hill to die on, Robert, instead of saying ICE has to take the masks off and it's all Democrats' fault, and they're putting people at risk. Like they should have just went hard at it. But getting control over the arresting environment was number two. We understood that the local people did not want to help them. That's fine. Guess what? Use Kash Patel's FBI, since they know how to get a control of arresting environments all the time. When they serve a warrant to go after a drug dealer, do you think you're allowed anywhere near that house when the FBI goes to serve that warrant? Of course not. You're not allowed anywhere near it. If ICE is having a problem getting control over arresting environments, you bring in the FBI, because guess what, Robert? That takes them away from spying on people like me anyway. You know what I'm saying? So like, oh, God, we're tying up the FBI. So what? What else would they be doing? Putting conservatives in jail for clipping their fingernails incorrectly? Who gives a shit? Unbelievable. And they didn't do any of it. Instead, they caved.
Yeah, and you dig into the Hispanic vote, new Trump vote that started actually in 2020 and then peaked in 2024 as new MAGA. Yeah. They are voters that are strongly support mass deportation because they see illegal immigrants competing with them disproportionately for services, for jobs, for wages, etc., and see them disproportionately hurting their communities in terms of crime. But the Trump administration is actually making exactly the wrong decision by thinking about amnesty will enrage these voters as much or more than anyone else. And these voters are Epstein accountability voters. These voters are focus on us, America first voters. Fix our domestic policy issues, our wage issues, our job issues, our access to quality health care and affordable housing. And these are voters that are disproportionately anti-war voters. So have been for a long, long time. Why? Because disproportionately it's their cousins, their brothers, their sons and daughters that serve in the military. Mexican Americans are overrepresented in military service, particularly on infantry and frontline units, just as a good group of working class African Americans are, who also trended Republican in 2024. So now we can shift to the two other states that are surprise swing
Robert,
states.
we'll just deport them all. We'll just
I know.
We're not supporting shit. All right. Like I got these people like, well, the hell with that coalition anyway. Okay, then go and lose then. Then have fun losing, you stupid idiots. There aren't enough white people around. And the oldest boomers turn 80 this year. Again, another reason, go buy Burn It Down. When it comes out, read it, study it thoroughly, get a better handle on what the electorate will look like in just 4 years. In just 4 years, it is about to dramatically change. And if Republicans don't get their act together, I don't know how they even do at this point, Robert. Like a public humiliation ritual of Benjamin Netanyahu. I told them it has to be a sister soldier. Like it has to be. Like just changing directions is good and everything. I think that'll help placate some of like the base that's upset, but it's not going to get them back. You know what I'm saying? It's not. Unless you sister soldier it, you know what I mean?
As somebody in the chat points out, the voters wanted, Americans to be laying pipe, and the only people in the Kristi Noem's office that were laying pipe was Corey Lewandowski.
and whoever apparently spent the Saturdays with her husband, who wears
correct.
Jesus, who wears women's clothing, and apparently
just one. I mean, did we nail that and Pam Bondi scandals? We nailed both
completely. It's like, what are these people still arguing with? Aren't you humiliated? Go back under your rock. Just go hide. Let the big boys talk. Let the big boys talk. And let's try to fix this. You just shut the hell up. Go away. Like your 7K posts are like, they killed us, man. They killed us. It's like.
Next Senate seat I see as a contested seat. I see as a toss-up seat that should be 50-50 odds is Nebraska.
You want to go to Nebraska?
So you look at Nebraska.
Look at the history of Nebraska a little bit. Yeah.
Almost nobody is talking about this Senate seat being competitive.
Yeah.
The first thing is Democrats have wisely not fielding a candidate and letting an independent run instead.
Again.
Number one. Number two, the independent is very good on a lot of Maha issues, is much more credible on Maha issues than the Republican incumbent is. He's running against Tyson Foods. He's the pro-labor guy. He's the pro-Maha Moms guy. He's the anti-Tyson Foods guy. He's the anti-Big Ag guy. He's the small farmer guy. That candidate is the independent candidate who can more easily absorb not only all the Democratic votes, but is going to win the independent vote by a big margin.
Yeah.
And in a range of surveys that I've seen, it is already a tight race in that state. And nobody's paying much attention to it because he's not a corporate candidate. He's not an institutional candidate. So the institutional media is ignoring it. And they forget Nebraska, famously home to the great Lion of the West, William Jennings Bryan.
That's right.
William Jennings Bryan is the last person before Joe Kent to resign from office. And he resigned from the Secretary of State's office, knowing it would end his political career in protest of Woodrow Wilson's effort to get us involved and ultimately get us into World War I. That's who William Jennings Bryan is. They called him the Lion of the West. I will not be persecuted on this cross of gold in the 1896 Democratic National Convention speech that brought the Populist, the People's Party, back into the Democratic fold and made it a competitive race until Republicans spent God knows how much money buying off and intimidating votes all across the industrial
it's true.
That's who Bryan was. Nebraska has a long prairie-style anti-war tradition. Bob Dole from neighboring Kansas famously said in 1976, "If I count up all the dead from all the Democrat wars, we will be here the rest of the night."
Yep.
And for those that may forget the Republican trend against war, the Democrats get us involved in World War I. 3 Republican presidents in a row keep us out of war.
Yep.
Then FDR comes in, he gets us involved in World War II. By the way, both Wilson and FDR would promise to keep us out of war in 1960 and 1940. They lied, of course. What happens? And then Harry Truman. What happens when Harry Truman gets us involved in the Korean War? Then we get Republican president again, Eisenhower. What happens? No new wars for 8 years.
Yep.
John Kennedy kept us out of war, but they murdered him because he did. So LBJ gets in. He gets us into the Vietnam War. Richard Nixon gets in. He gets us out of the Vietnam War, gets détente with the Soviet Union, gets rapprochement with China. He de-escalates around the world. Then you get Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, to his credit, mostly kept us out of war. But because he tried to take on the CIA, we get Iran the first time, Iran-Contra, in 1980. But what has happened with Reagan? He keeps us out of war. When our troops get attacked in Beirut, what does Reagan do? Does he double down? Does he escalate? No, he pulls us out and keeps us out. Then you get all the warmongers, all the war whores, all the fake peace presidents since the end of the Cold War. But the history in the 20th century was Republicans keeping us out of war and Democrats getting us into war. Now that this has been reversed, the natural tendency is for the states in the prairie populous states, anti-war prairie states, to start to trend back to the Democratic column. Nebraska is a toss-up, and nobody's paying attention.
So here are 2 sponsored polls. They're both partisan-sponsored polls, but they're out there. The New York Times has looked at them. There's another one. I was going to bring up the whole entire polling memo, but I think it's important because you have change. You can have some good cycles and some bad cycles, and then you have impact, right? Which, again, these are both well-known firms who do campaign work and stuff like that. But it's interesting that Dan gets this from Impact and says, all right, next month I want to get another look at it and uses change. And they basically find the same margin, just different vote shares. Both of them have the incumbent in the 40s, like mid to barely high 40. The highest one was 48. That is not a good sign. And he won easily. He was appointed after Ben Sasse, just to give people a quick little rundown. He was Ricketts, who is a well-known Republican donor family, doesn't like Trump. They hate Trump. The Ricketts family can't stand. Mastriano met with them in 2022 when one of them was the head of the Republican Governors Association. They sat down. He flew out there. They sat down. They had a very nice meeting. He said, of course, I'm going to need your help in Pennsylvania. Shapiro spent like $55 million. I raised like $1 million. And they said, yeah, you know what? We like you, but you just, you seem like an okay guy, but you're just not our kind of guy. So sorry. They sent Mastriano home. He got clapped by 20 points. And now you're looking at a candidate for president who could probably stomp all over any candidate Republican puts forward. Right. So big trouble. And from Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. So these are how they're like, this family is, and I know I'm going to get shit for saying this right now, but I'm going to say it. This family is so indicative of what's wrong with Republican donor politics. They're just totally stupid. They don't ever assume, folks, because a family has money, they're smart. Don't ever assume that. It's just not true, especially when it comes to right-wing donors. This is exactly the problem with the Republican Party. So anyway, he gets appointed after Ben Sasse goes to the University of Florida before his diagnosis, which is an unfortunate diagnosis. I hate that damn disease. I really do. And he winds up he has to run for his full term, for his seat again anyway, in 24. So he had the benefit of the Trump wave, but it's not like he's liked by MAGA and he's populist. He is very much a rhino corporate conservative, not even conservative, corporate Republican. And those are the ones who are going to have huge targets on their back when it comes to anti-war sentiment, national mood swinging against you like this. So this is a problem. This has happened in the past before. People say, oh, no, Nebraska, that's ridiculous. Robert and I were talking about this the other day. And it's like, no, it's really not. If you look at the history of these states, everyone seems to think they're all ruby red. They're not. Neither is Kansas, right? I mean, these are populist states. Think, guys, when you were in high school, especially if you're like my age, think about when you were in high school and they're like, you went over in history class the progressive era. It's like these states, and William Jennings Bryan, perfect example. They're not really progressives in the sense that the left calls themselves progressives now at all. They were more populist. Like they had farmer labor movements, stuff like that, whether they were ranchers or farmers. And in the prairie states, and they were very much like only Republican when Republicans were progressive in that sense, right? And now they are fake red. I would argue it's like fake red. And in a situation, an environment like this is smart. You remember Pat Roberts had a problem in Kansas in 2014. They had to throw a bunch of money behind Pat Roberts at the last second because of a similar dynamic. Nebraska is like that as well, guys. So I think his name was Orban, something like that, but it was an independent, same kind of model that Dan's running here, where I'm not going to associate myself with the Democratic Party. I have the money. I'm going to call myself an independent, get Democrats to back off, let me just run my show with the wink, wink that I'm not really an independent. But it works. It has worked in the past, and it can work again. So, I mean, this was not even on my radar until you brought it up last week, Robert, with me. I just was like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And then I start to look into it. I start talking to people who have looked at the race, who have polled the race, and they're like, this thing's close. It's really close. In Nebraska, of course, guys, I mean, that congressional district slipped away from Republicans. Nebraska's changing. You have a financial district and everything. Like, go look at your credit card statement. Where's it coming from? Omaha, right? So, yeah. So, I mean, this is like, it's real, and it's unfortunate because, again, when we say that unpopular wars have a deep impact, we're not kidding. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like the worst case scenario. It's almost unbelievable. It's unfathomable, but it's almost unbelievable, Robert, that like 17 months ago, where we were, and to now be sitting here talking about Nebraska and Texas being super close, and Byron Donalds barely beating David Jolly in a statewide race in Florida by like 4 points. I mean, this is a historic squandering of political capital we have never witnessed. And before this, guys, I would have to say it was like Obama didn't really squander his capital on Obamacare. He used like 75% of it. But Bush on the surge, that's another good example. He squandered all his capital.
The ultimate squandering in the modern era was Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Oh, well,
1964.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Extraordinary
until
margins
Donald
in the
Trump.
Extraordinary margins in the electoral college, extraordinary margins in the Senate, extraordinary margins in the House, mass mandate from the American people, complete rejection of the Southern strategy of opposing civil rights. And what did he do? He used the foreign war that he knew he shouldn't get involved in, that he kept escalating and doubling down in, that utterly destroyed the Democratic Party coalition for the next, as Kevin Phillips predicted in 1966 it would, for the next 30 plus years. So now let's go to the last Senate seat that nobody's paying attention to.
Let me just show this real quick. This,
go ahead.
like, Robert, this is what is going to be a problem. Across party lines. Like, I went into the poll and I looked at it. They did like sentiment tests, like about characteristics. Ricketts is viewed as the corporate war whore, donor serving, Israel lobby serving, and Osborne is seen across the aisle as the one who cares more about people like me. Across the aisle, guys. All right. I mean, this is just that's bad. That's really bad. I just wanted to point that out because even in partisan polls, like, that's a huge number, you know. All right, let's go ahead.
Absolutely. So the last Senate seat that I think is a toss-up that no one's looking at is Montana. That Montana, three reasons. One, the incumbent at the last minute stepped down to try to convince Tester to not enter the race. But that means it's not an incumbent defended Senate seat. Number two, there is a very strong populist libertarian running for that seat. This is and because it's Montana, which is a very cheap state from a money perspective, independent libertarian type candidates, and Montana has a libertarian streak to it and a deep populist streak to it. That's why Tester held on as long as he did in Montana. Trump was winning it by 20 plus points, and yet Tester was holding on in years like 2018. So it has a long-standing populist streak going way back. You had the strong libertarian candidate above it. By the way, who's running a MAGA Maha. He said the very first thing he'll do if he's elected to the United States Senate is he'll put in a bill to draft Lindsey Graham for any war we enter. That as a precondition of any kinetic conflict.
That's so funny, though.
The president has to send Lindsey Graham to the front lines first.
That's so funny.
So he knows how to campaign. Montana is a very affordable state for third-party independent candidates. It's a very rich ground for those candidates. Second, the incumbent is gone.
Yeah, that's what I was going to show people. The Daines is out, guys. So and even before that, though, look at the difference between Daines Bodner and Daines Neal. So Daines was like almost up 20 points on Neal, but on Bodner, it was still 10 points cut in half. That's before Daines left the race. Tester wants to jump back in this race or something. He could really screw shit up. It's too late, though. The primaries is really June 2nd. So they got to do the same old playbook from like a Nebraska or a Dakota or a Kansas or something, which they have done in the past. They have. Democrats are just smarter like that, man. They are.
And you have a place for the anti-war Maha OG MAGA disappointed vote to go in the Libertarian. They don't have to vote for the Democrat, and they don't have to vote for the Republican. What does that mean? In a state with a 10-point margin, the Democrat can search. That's why I think Montana is one of those states nobody's paying attention to. But as an open seat with a strong independent third-party candidate to soak up some of those votes that otherwise might go to the institutional Republican out of just partisan preference. And in a state that's very affordable for independent candidates and fertile ground for independent third-party candidates to campaign to begin with, especially in this electoral environment, an environment where up to 1 in 5 voters were picking Thomas Massie for president of the United States in 2028 that recognize his name. In that kind of environment, Montana's kind of a Ross Perot. It's not a big religious conservative state. It's not a big boomer con state. It's a state with a lot of independents, with a lot of libertarian-leaning voters, with a good anti-war constituency, with a good Maha constituency that the Republican candidate is not going to tap into. That, in fact, all of this was partially designed so the institutional Republican candidate didn't have meaningful competition in an open primary. It's partially keeping Tester out and not having a meaningful Republican primary. And you combine all those factors, and Montana is one of those states, as proven by longstanding Senator Tester, that could be a surprise swing state. For those people that don't know the history, all the mountain states have a long history of being anti-war. Many of the great anti-war Republicans and Democrats, going back a century, have come from the Dakotas, the prairie and the mountain states. Places like Senator Frank Church, the famous Church Committee that exposed MK Ultra and the CIA. He was a Democratic senator from Idaho. People forget all of this. William Jennings Bryan, big populist coalition support, was a combination of the prairie states and the mountain states. So these states have a history of this. Montana being an open seat, having a strong libertarian candidate, it being the political context favoring challengers and non-institutional parties, make Montana much more of a swing state than anybody's noticing.
The poll, Robert, if you click on that poll, which I just did, actually, what's the most interesting thing about this, guys, is that if Bodner if he decided I'm going to run as a Democrat, right, he was still getting like 40%. He was only behind Daines by like that's that 9. But if he was to run as an independent, because the independent streak that these states have is a real thing. He actually scoots up to 42. So like it's not, if they misinterpreted the poll too. They're like, oh, being a Democrat doesn't hurt that much. That's not the point. All right, like you bury in the lead here. He runs as an independent, and he's only 7 points behind the incumbent, and that's when there was an incumbent, and there's not now. So it's a real problem. And by the way, who is it? It's American Pulse Research. I mean, look, there. How I feel about today. There's a lot of polls and not enough pollsters. But it is what it is. I mean, this is what we got. I think it's funny too that Trump. His numbers were under 50 in Montana. It was under.
Yeah, that was a huge warning.
In February, brother. That was in February.
Correct. That was before all the latest insanity. Now let's flip to the. I think we can go to maybe Cook Political Report. It's House projections because I think they're way missing the boat. I'll go to Cook, but I had up or whichever one you have is fine.
Yeah, I had up Allen's house from last year just to show people because the situation's deteriorated so much from when Allen wrote this. And Allen was saying, I'm just one line I want to share with people. Here is what I was telling you guys before, which is that, some of it's regression, so bear with me, but I think it's important for you guys to see it. Even if you don't know what the hell you're looking at, I'll explain it to you. But bottom line is, this is the one sentence I want to show you. A shift of 1 point in the average generic ballot margin is associated with a swing of about 2.6 House seats and about 0.36 Senate seats. Okay, that's a swing in the margin. All right, so we're looking at 26 seats right now, at least, if you were to use roughly right now what we're looking at for. I honestly, Robert, I think our polling's more accurate, but whatever. Let's do the average because that's what the modeling is. This is from 1946 to 2022. All right, which obviously they didn't include 24 because he's talking about midterm seat changes. I actually do think when we do our modeling, we always did 4 cycle rolling averages, but that's a difference. And here's the Senate. So what does that tell you guys looking at the regression? That the model has been more accurate at predicting House swings. And there's, again, the reason for that is because every cycle with the Senate is not the same like it is with the House. Every seat's up, and that's all there is to it. The Senate can have a more favorable or a more unfavorable map for the incumbent party that we're talking with the in-power party based on the last presidential election and what the partisan indexes were for those states that are up now. So that's why, again, when we're trying to tell you guys that Iowa and Ohio are fake margins, they're fake red margins. He started to explore this now. I don't think he didn't really last year, but this is the other sentence I just want to highlight. Where is it?
Because don't they do an analysis also of if it's a 10 plus point movement, it's 50 plus seats are likely to go.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're looking at we're right now. We're looking, and I have to go back and make sure, I know exactly what the 24 House vote was. But if we're looking at a Dem 8 generic ballot right now, you're looking at least 25, 30 seats, bro. It's just that's what that model is suggesting. Now, do remember we have census, obviously, and reapportionment, and that changes maps, but it doesn't impact the model, or at least it hasn't historically, as much as cycle changes for the Senate map. Now, I think that may change in the future because like what we saw this year with gerrymandering was like on another level. We have never on another level, guys. I mean, and then we had the redistricting war that Republicans shot themselves before they even ran out in the field, right? Before they even started to charge, they shot themselves in the temple, and that war was over. But here's what I want to read real quick. While the generic ballot models current prediction of a Democratic gain of more than a dozen seats, this was last year, guys, in the House, will not surprise most observers of American politics. The model's forecast of a Democratic gain of 5 Senate seats, one more than Democrats would need to regain control of the Senate, undoubtedly will. This was written in April 2025. Okay. And there's a cute little table right there. You guys can see it. Generic ballot R percentage, D percentage, -10, right? You're looking at a House change of like 39, Senate seats of 9. I mean, Robert, we're somewhere now in the ballpark of between 5 to 10. So you're looking at 26, upwards of 26 seats, and you're looking at like 7 Senate seats. Now, that is not in stone, so wouldn't be surprised because of the Senate map. It wouldn't be surprising if it was only like 5 seats. Okay. Now but it would still be very much in line with what the model's predicting because it's, of course, looking at 19. What it was at from the beginning? I go back and look, but 40s up until 2022. So he actually did get into a little bit about why 22 was like disappointing for Republicans. And we've talked about this before. There are 3 reasons why, guys. One, of course, was realignment. Democrats understood their coalition better. All right. And Republicans did not. They did not understand the low propensity voter. They didn't understand. It doesn't matter if you get a 30-point margin out of white working class if they're only like 19% of the electorate instead of 28% of the electorate. And that's the problem that they had. They did better with educated voters. It wasn't enough. They did better than they've done in the past with Hispanic voters. It wasn't enough. Right. And what one that they really lost, Robert, which I've kept my eye on, were the voters who said they somewhat disapproved of Biden. They won 90% of strongly. They lost voters who said they somewhat disapproved of Joe Biden. Republicans lost that vote. Right now, that's reversed. That's a major problem for Republicans. So if you look at people who say they somewhat disapprove of Donald Trump, they're voting Democrat. In fact, somewhat approve is still voting Democrat by larger margin than Republicans were able to squeeze out of it in 22. So it's bad. I mean, it is no good. This is all of these signs point to a wipeout, man. Oh, it's a wipeout. I still think we can buck history here. I do. I just don't think we can right now because they show no inclination to want to do what's not, like they show no inclination and they show no will. Like they don't have the will. They just don't. And the people who do aren't the shot callers. So it doesn't matter. It's just they're stuck on a sinking ship, and it's like idiots, bro. You're on a sinking ship. Do you direct your people to try to find the source of the leak and try to stop it? Or at the very, very least, get ready to get to the lifeboats? Or do you just fucking ignore the leak and jettison the lifeboats like a bunch of retards? Like that's what all of the clapping seals and the sycophants have been doing for a year. So and we just kept steaming toward the iceberg, steaming toward it. Well, now we hit the son of a bitch. And now that's what I'm trying to tell you. We have hit the iceberg now. And now we have to decide if we're going to save as many people as we can, or we're just going to ignore it and go down with it. By the way, the Titanic meme with Trump and Netanyahu is too much. Did you see it? It's too much. I'll play it at the end, guys. Like these memes are brutal. They're brutal. And they're not left-wingers making them because left-wingers can't make them. So what does Cook have, though? I'll go and look at Cook. I think they're way understating it. They're trying to be they're trying to be cautious this time. I think it's very clear that a bunch of them are trying to be cautious. And I think they did recently, though, shift 18 more ratings. So I'll check it out. But
yeah, because I'm going to go through. So the broader environment, as I anticipate, generic ballot. In other words, that when you aggregate all the votes for the House of Representatives across the country, Democrats in 2026, my current prediction, that number will be at least 10 points in favor of the Democrats, which is a almost 12-point swing from 2024, which means if you're looking at any House seat that Trump won by 12 points or less, it is not a safe seat. There's a bunch of those seats that Cook is listing as safe that I don't think are safe at all. So that's the broader context. Within the geographic and demographic priority, seats that are in the Southwest, the Southeast, in the certain Hispanic and large African American votes in the Southeast, and then in amongst large Hispanic and working class white areas in the Southwest, and then working class industrial and rural Midwest areas, expect the swing in those districts to be more than, say, rural Arkansas. And so that's the second category. So I'm going to go through, and these are the seats I consider either that are going to flip to the Democratic side or are going to be toss-ups. And there'll be some surprises on this list for a range of people. Alaska at large.
Yeah.
Arizona, 1.
Which
Arizona
is likely, by the way. Alaska at large, Begich, they have as likely, which I think is foolish if Peltola is winning the Senate race. They're the same. Guys, at large means statewide. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. Go ahead, Robert. I just wanted to point that out. Go ahead.
Oh, no, precisely right. Arizona 1, Arizona 2, Arizona 6, I think are toss-up to lean Democrat. California 1, California 5, California 22, California 48, I think are toss-up to lean Democrat. Yeah. Colorado 3, Colorado 5, Colorado 8, toss-up to lean Democrat. Florida 2, Florida 4, Florida 7, Florida 11, Florida 15, Florida 16, toss-up to lean Democrat.
Two are open, by the way, guys, of those.
There's a bunch of these that are listed in the safe category. You look them up. Some of those are open seats. Some of those are seats where Trump is challenging the Republican incumbent in the primary. Some of those are seats that are heavily Puerto Rican or heavily Cuban or heavily working class whites that have moved from the north. And their kin up in the working class industrial north are trending massively Democratic. And all of them are seats that Trump did not win by 12 or more points. For the most part, and yet they're put in the safe Republican category. They don't belong there. These are people assuming the 2024 massive shift in Texas and Florida was locked in the same way they mistakenly thought that the Democratic shift before was locked in.
Yep.
And so similar, and by the way, Democrats are seeing the same thing. That's why they have now announced they're going to spend a bunch of money in Florida. Once they saw those special elections confirm that Florida was trending the same way as the industrial north, the same way as the Southwest, that they're like, well, then that means it's open season. And as you noted, DeSantis has been warning about this risk in his state. The Iowa 1, Iowa 2, Iowa 3, Michigan 4, Montana 1,
Iowa
Michigan
2 is open, by the way. Like, that is gone, bro. Like, it's open. Iowa 1 is incredibly difficult to hold in a good year, but 2 is open. I mean, this go ahead, man.
Oh, exactly. Record number of Republican open seats for the modern era.
37 or 38 right now.
Correct. And my guess, it may just go up, not down. The Michigan 4, Michigan 7, Michigan 10, Montana 1, North Carolina 1, North Carolina 11, Nebraska 2, New Jersey 7, New York 17. I think Lawler's going to be gone. Pennsylvania 1, I think Fitzgerald doesn't hold anymore. Pennsylvania 7, Pennsylvania 8, Pennsylvania 10. A seat that's going to surprise a lot of people that I think is going to be very competitive is Tennessee 5. Texas 15, Texas 22, Texas 23, Texas 24, Texas 28. All these new seats that they redistricted in are likely all going to go Democrat.
Which they did on Trump's vote share. Let me just bring this up real quick. I told them, they asked me about this, and I said, don't do this based on Trump's vote share. You didn't even do that well with these voters. Like in the 24 election, you underperformed him. So why would you do it on presidential vote? Why are you doing it on the presidential vote using that as the benchmark? Why on earth would you do that? Like, bro, it was like I was talking to the wall. They're stupid. These are stupid. The only one was Bannon was like, do you understand what he's telling you? Like Bannon was talking slow. He's like, do you understand what he's telling. Like, they were stupid idiots, bro. It's like, and then he just starts like, we're fucking dead. Well, because they just didn't get it. Like, you didn't perform that well. You can't use Trump's benchmark. You're gonna lose all these seats, bro. Like, the Hispanics swing 30 points away from you because they hate you, and they gave Trump a chance, not you. Like, let me show you what happened to George Bush from 04 to 06 with Hispanics. Okay. I mean, they just didn't get it, man. Now they're in this position making fun of Mayra Flores, who's the only one who's not stupid enough to realize you can't win those districts with white voters. Like, the Anglo vote is getting more educated, and you can't rely on that, guys. Like, they think they're going to win 66% of the white vote. Like, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's getting more educated, and you needed those Hispanics. You needed them. And we won the state by 13 points. No, Trump won the state by 13 points. You just went along for the ride.
And it was Trump, MAGA Trump, not new Trump.
Not this guy.
Exactly. And then several seats they'll pick up in Virginia from the redistricting. And last but not least, I think Wisconsin 1 and Wisconsin 3 flip. My prediction right now is that Democrats, I would put the median number of Democratic seats come January 2027, after the new members are brought in, to be 246 Democratic House seats, that they win 30 or more. And I see that as the median. It would not surprise me to see 250 plus Democratic House seats. And when you combine that with 53 plus Senate seats, it not only is impeachment a guarantee, and he's just got to dodge Republican votes going AWOL in the Senate and actually removing him,
which they will.
You've got no leeway to get anything done legislatively. So unless he reverses course this month in Iran, it will be a bloodbath in November. Democrats, massive margins in the House, some of the biggest margins they've had since 2006, biggest generic ballot win in the modern era since 1994, and Democrats take the Senate. They take the Senate comfortably, and could even build out bigger margins in a lot of surprise states that could build a big enough cushion that they can push through all kinds of things if they take the White House in 2028. And they're going to tie down it was good of the administration to get rid of their obvious weak links in Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi. And hopefully they get rid of Stanley Woodward as well at the Justice Department. Those are the ones that would have been the first out of the gate to be impeached, the first out of the gate to embarrass the administration with corruption scandal after corruption scandal after corruption scandal.
But he let them do it, though, anyway, Robert. Like, this
I know. The problem is it's still there. It's still going to be part. It's just not as a glaring, easy vulnerability as it would be if they were still in positions of power come 2027. But unless he reverses course fast in the war, the Republican Party is heading for a bloodbath again in 2028, where Democrats could have the kind of margins in the House and the Senate that they could pack the Supreme Court. They could add Puerto Rico and D.C. as states. They could grant mass amnesty to flood the House with Democratic voters. They could completely manipulate both reapportionment at the legislative level and the census to basically give them a decade-level institutional edge that would make it very difficult for Republicans to make a comeback. That is what, for all the people cheerleading this war, that's the risk you're giving up. It's the risk. It's not even a
risk. It's a likely outcome at this point. This is what they did. They risked it months ago. They risked it last year, because once he brother, what you know, and I know, and Charlie knew, once he let those bombs away last year, it was always going to end here, because the Israel lobby didn't care about Iran's nuclear program. That is a lie. So pull your head out of your ass. Stop slurping the slop. This was always about regime change. And once he let those bombs fly, if you heard people say something like, it was only a limited strike, you should stop listening to those stupid people. And these people are all the ones who never know anybody, Robert. They don't know anyone. They have no inside information into what the Israelis really were looking for, what Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham tried to extort out of Donald Trump. That limited strike, they went on TV, they went on Fox News and praised it and said he made the right decision. That's not what they wanted. They wanted decapitation off the jump. And this is what we were always going to end up here if he gave in to them back then. It was the right answer was, I will go to the camera, Lindsay and Ted, Tel Aviv Ted, and I will tell the country that you are extorting me, passing the BBB until I give you your war. I will tell the country that, and I will primary every single one of you sons of bitches. Lindsay was actually up for a primary this time. Instead, he decided to bear hug Lindsay, who was drunk again Saturday. Did you see that? Again, drunk again. It was like 12:30 in the afternoon, bro. He was wasted, couldn't even get to the damn Uber. It was ridiculous. This is like, that was not the right call. We were always going to, that's what they were risking it last year. Now it is the likelihood when Republicans were supposed to be solidifying the electoral college for at least a decade. They will, guys, do you understand? They will end. You think your electoral college update is coming in 2030? They will end it. All right. You will have to win the Sun Belt and the Rust Belt all over again. They can screw with this shit. They will never, ever put a citizenship question on the census, which could have locked us in for 30 years. Immediately, 25 seats gone for Democrats. If you simply ask that question on the census, they will take that from you. And worse, the Voting Rights Act rule is going to come down. They're not going to have time to implement it before this election. It will be implemented by Democratic legislatures or less Republican legislatures, who we all know they can't be based even with super majorities. They're a bunch of little pansies, right? So now they're going to have their margins cut into in all of these state legislatures. They're not going to pass based maps. Look, we just went through this fight. They caved. You have all this money being spent on Indiana legislators. I mean, it's just, they're going to take it all from you, all of it. Meanwhile, you should have been getting the census question. You should have been getting ready to assault the Mid-Atlantic in the next electoral college, because all you'll need to do is win the Sun Belt. So you would have been free to pursue New Jersey for real. And instead, you're going to have to win Michigan. You're going to have to win Pennsylvania and or all 2 of 3 of them. And you'll have to hold Georgia and hold Arizona. That's what and North Carolina. That's what you're going to have to do now, because you cheerled for this war, because you didn't understand what it meant. You know, like last year, Robert, I get it. They weren't smart enough to see the future. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. There's not, like, the truth is there's only a few people who are like really good at this. Most people don't have great political instincts. I would say most people in our space, like actually common Americans, are actually very smart. They are instinctively smarter than most people who call themselves experts. All right. And I know that from talking and interviewing them all the time. An average Trump voter would have told you last year how this was all going to shake out. They knew it. All right. So I get it, though. Last year, you didn't see it. Well, guess what? You have to be blind to not see it. You have to be deaf to not hear it now. You have to be the R word to not be able to understand what we're telling you. You D all of the above at this point. It is so in front of your face right now. There's no excuse anymore. There's just no excuse anymore. Historic margins down on the generic ballot in our polling. And we are, and I do put my polling above everybody else. When they start doing what I do, then they can, I'll put them on par with us and a couple of other good ones out there. All down historic margins. Registrations reversing. Nevada, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. By the way, that's the first year-over-year reversal in the Trump era in North Carolina. That update. That's how bad that update was. Registrations, partisan affiliation. That Gallup affiliation we just went over, you could rewind the tape, Robert. Before the 24 election, we were showing tables of the Gallup Party ID. It is predictive. It's incredibly predictive. In fact, it almost completely nailed, again, if you use the Gallup ID model that we have showed people, that was perfect for Trump's popular vote win. It was damn near perfect. This is every indicator is pointing to a disaster. And there are ways to buck it, but like they're just not doing it. They're just not going to do it. And they just didn't understand like what the realignment meant for them. You know, going into this midterm, they couldn't just coast on cruise control. You know what I mean? Like they couldn't just do what was like good enough. They needed to understand, like Democrats understood in 22. Yes, it looks real bad, but we now have the high turnout coalition, and we can buttress this. We can firewall this thing up. And while we're going to take some beatings in some places, if we focus where we need to focus, we can minimize this damage. And they did. They did it. And Republicans just didn't have that level of understanding leaving the 24 election, despite the fact that on election night, I literally told people, while you're celebrating, understand this is what you have to do from this point forward, or you will be staring an electoral disaster in the face 2 years from now. And they just didn't hear it. You know, clapping. They can't hear over their own clapping, bro. Or. They can't hear anything other than their own fake optimism. You know, I mean, it's where it is. I know it's 2:12. We got to get to the comments, but I mean, I just at this point, Robert, you have to be stupid not to see it. Like you have to be like legit simple. You know, like
oh yeah. I mean what is a lot of voters on the right are choosing to disregard and discard any constructive criticism. As somebody put it in the chat, like the question was, you know, they said that Democrats having a big control over the House, Senate, White House, governorships, and state legislatures in key states is a much greater threat than Iran posed to the security.
Oh my God, smart! And if you ever said that, that's a smart person.
Correct, and that's what it's the failure to make that risk assessment that in the White House and with a lot of the seal clappers that is going to endanger. And people get upset at us for simply predicting this consequence. If you don't want this consequence, you're the ones that need to encourage the president to reverse course, because it's him being on the current course that is creating this consequence. We don't desire this consequence. We're simply objectively predicting it is the likely consequence of the decisions the president has made, and pretending those consequences won't happen, or blaming us for those consequences occurring, rather than ignoring your own culpability and responsibility by seal clapping us into this stupid war, is ignoring that you are the ones responsible in substantial part, and the president is. So Senate right now, if things continue to go in the direction they're in, will be Democratic, 85% chance Democrats win the Senate. That I would say 50-50. The odds are Democrats have 53 or more Senate seats come January of 2027. That the 95% chance Democrats take the House of Representatives. That I would say the median margin of the Democratic number of seats that they hold come January of 2027 is 246. One of the biggest margins they have held since 1994 in this modern era, with a generic ballot win bigger than any they have ever had since 1994. That they will pick up governorships, state Supreme Courts, and state legislatures that people aren't even thinking possible, like in places like North Carolina, Wisconsin, and the like.
At this point,
that's where we're heading, unless there's a massive course correction by the president rapidly soon. So let's turn to the comments and the questions, and then we'll wrap for today.
So I'll go back and forth between it's just easier to put YouTube on the screen. We'll start with this one, then we'll go to you, Chunkster, on locals. By the way, Chunkster has this really cool thing. Mike Benz even gave it a shout out. He's got a couple of cool things, but the Tucker Carlson administration was cool. And then he's got it's like, I asked him on locals too, like, how did he do it? Did he use AI? But it's like this, how the blob works, right? And he aggregated all this information. It's really cool. Trump and Hegseth made it clear God is on our side. Did he really say that when we were talking? Of course, I was going to go to it live, but at this point, Robert, it's like, we'll just react to it after. What's the point? It's just nonsense slop. I bet you he said that or something like that. He's
pretending that our failed effort, special ops effort to go and seize their enriched uranium was really a super genius rescue of a down pilot.
Yeah, guys.
And you can find a wide range of sources out there that follow the military autist and nerds online. Ignore the General Keens and the General Kellogg's and the fake generals on Fox News. Go to places like Armchair Warlord. A bunch of these people have military background, military experience. I call them military autists and nerds because they love this kind of stuff. They know the difference between that plane and this plane and that weapon and this troop movement and that troop.
And Bowtie Ranger. Like Bowtie Ranger was the Ranger.
Another one. The Intel Frog. I mean, they got all these funny kind of names. But I've followed them a lot through the Ukraine conflict, and they've been far more accurate than almost everybody else. Go to those places. But politically, the blowback is here, and it's only going to get worse unless there is the course correction of all course corrections. Unless Trump comes out and says aliens are here and they bless me to continue to be president, unless we get something absolutely revolutionary, the fate is sealed for 2026, but not the margins. The margins can be reversed. This could be 51-49 rather than 54-46 in the Senate. This could be 225 Democratic seats, not 245 Democratic seats. Yeah. This could be competitive with a chance of a bounce back in 28 to being doomed in 2028. Yeah. That's what's at stake literally over the next 30 to 60 days by what we do in the Iran war.
Guy went from being favored to becoming the next president in a shoe-in to not even wanting the gig anymore because it's that bad. Speaking of which, I'll get to you in a second. Chunkster said he's willing to come on to discuss the blob. It is blobstudies.com. All right, if you guys want to go check it out. And the Tucker admin picks thing was done for Roberts 1776 Law Center, it's really cool actually. You guys should go check it out. Ryan says, let's get this populist pack on the road, gentlemen. It is time to hit the road. There are populist candidates that are being starved of funding. The GOP is about 50-50 America first versus establishment within the party officials. We need to keep pushing. That's Ryan on Locals. And I get that sentiment, Robert. I don't know. You think it can be done with? Like, Trump starves. He does it. He starves all. He takes all the cash out of the room, and people, because I already met with a bunch, they're just afraid to do something like that. I'm talking about donors. They're afraid to be, because they don't want to be seen as going against not supporting Trump's things. But the fact is, give it 6 months, bro. Or not 6 months, but give it what?
Yeah, I think it's something, the populist pack, that we can launch in 2027.
Yeah,
when people realize Trump's a dead man walking in a political zombie, that's when we really need a restoration of the OG MAGA coalition and the new MAGA coalition in some new form presented by new candidates or new parties, as the case may be. That all of that, the Populist Party PAC can launch in 2027 and probably have people more comfortable being institutionally invested than the corrupt rogue actors that are dominating the Trump money machine currently.
Yeah.
I think the two biggest elections that will shock the deep state into possible course correction in the summer is going to be, to a certain degree, the Paxton Cornyn race, but the big ones will be the South Carolina Senate primary and Thomas Massey's House primary. If they lose after spending gobs of money for Lindsey Graham with a 10-1, 20-1 money edge, if they lose with maybe a 50-1 money edge in Massey's district, trying to take Massey out, and if they lose substantially, especially, they lose by double digits in Massey's district, then that will shock the entire deep state establishment and those 30 or 40 populist-inclined Republicans that are staying quiet, the Israel lobby skeptical Democrats that are staying quiet.
Yeah.
You'll suddenly start seeing them be very loud. All the Democrats think about running for the president are pretending they didn't have any of their 2020 positions. Those COVID lockdowns, those are terrible ideas. What are you talking about? These mandates, that was atrocious. A DEI, what a crazy policy. Men and women's sports, I would never embrace that. Of course we need a secure border. But that tells you that they smell the White House. They can smell the robe. They can smell the curtains of the White House.
Yeah.
So watch for those two races to shock the deep state in D.C. Because for those that don't know, everybody in the White House and the deep state lobbyist crowd, Richard has talked to them. I've talked to a bunch of them. Yeah. They think Massey's going to lose by double digits. Trump really thinks Massey's at single digits in approval. Richard's polling it as we speak.
Yeah, he does.
Let's just say shock waves are coming for the establishment in Massey's seat.
younger people want to get tonight, and then we'll wait it and we'll get out there. But this, did you see that they put out all the, speaking of clapping seals, they're like, they know that I'm polling the race, and they sent like Cat Turd and all their other clapping seals out to like lie about, I'm hearing about internal polling that shows Massey down by like 10. And it's like just such bullshit. They knew it's coming. They asked me what I'm seeing so far. I said, you'll see it when I put it out. But like, I think you're going to have a problem. Like, you know, like, because they think they're ahead by 30 points, dude. They really do. And they do, guys. They really do. I have a sneaking suspicion that they're polling like a certain boomer, and that's it. And that's who they think is going to turn out. And that's going to be the difference. So that's why I want to make sure we get enough of these younger people, because we have AI modeling going on. It's been super accurate so far. Of course, we're tweaking a bunch of races that we just didn't show this with publicly, because that's the professional and the responsible thing to do, is not to just come out like all these people do and come out like, I got this new thing I want to share with everybody. You have to test it. And it's telling us that 18 to 29 is going to be a historic share of a Republican primary, which is very bad news for Ed Galbraith, all right, because he's getting clobbered with young voters. I'll just say that, all right. And
his last name, the person challenging Thomas Massey, who's a never Trumper and all the rest, war whore, neocon, getting all his money from a foreign lobby. The is difficult last name to pronounce, so I just explained just Gay Rain. Gay Rain.
Okay.
That's how you see his name.
Am I saying it wrong?
I pronounce it Gay Rain. So just imagine a bunch of Dave Rubins falling from the sky, and that's this guy's name, Ed Gay Rain. Easiest way to pronounce his name.
I will say this. I'll give this away so far, that the most popular Republican in the district is actually J.D. Vance. Trump is not the most popular person in the district. I'm actually stunned by how high Donald Trump's very unfavorable among Republican primary voters is. I remember a couple of months ago seeing Massey write something like, Trump's favorabilities fell from like this to like this, and I can't remember what it was. It was like, 90 to 70 or something. He's still widely favorable, but like when you have 20% of your own party, like very unfavorable. That's not good. And with the amount of money that they hit Massey with, he still has, I'll give this much away, guys. He still has his favorables are still better than his challengers, even though his challenger has a huge chunk who a lot of the voters, they're telling us this. Look, honestly, I don't even know who Ed is. All I see are negative ads against Thomas Massey. That's all I see. And it's working with the boomers. I'll say that, of course. It's working with boomers, but it's not with anyone like with voters like under 50. They don't like it. There comes to be a point where like negative ads do work, but there comes a point where you hit fatigue and it starts to turn people off. That's where we're at in Kentucky for. All right. They're just like, enough, man. I get it. You want Massey gone. Like, who's your guy? We don't even know who he is. There's no door knockers for him. We're also doing a Senate poll in that district to see like, how people are going to vote at the Senate level. But like a third of voters say, I've been knocked by Massey, and people who support Thomas Massey. Nobody's been knocked for Ed. Nobody. They're getting, it's just all negative, guys. I mean, negative ads attacking Thomas Massey have been seen by over 70% of primary voters. Positive ads supporting Ed, no. So it's like, I see what their goal is here. Their goal is to drive out turnout among cultists, boomer drones, and hopefully nobody else shows up. That's their goal. Yep. And the problem is you kind of backfires, Robert, because like you spend more money. That's one cool thing about the AI. It's totally right about this. I mean, it's got the vault with that attached. So it's awesome. It's going through all of these historic results. And when you've had these moments where it's like, I'm going to spend a whole lot of money trying to attack the incumbent, often you just generate higher turnout. So like it can backfire. And that's why I think like you should have done I'm not going to give them advice. Never mind. I'm not saying that. Fuck that.
I gotta hop off, but I'll let you answer the rest of the questions.
I'll get
remember peoplespundit.locals.com for all the inside intel information. Yep. Go to Amazon and get the Burn It All Down, new book coming in September. My last predictions, 3 primary predictions. Paxton wins Texas. Graham loses South Carolina. Massey wins Kentucky. Democrats take the House. Democrats take the Senate. and big margins in both is where my predictions currently stand. You can get all the updated predictions up at sportspicks.locals.com, where I'll put continuous predictions on the House, the Senate, the governor's races, other things, the Straits of Hormuz, the Iran conflict, you name it. All that will be up at sportspicks.locals.com. Otherwise, thanks, everybody.
All the best, Robert. We'll see you soon. I'll get through the comments here with you guys on Wednesday. I'll go over because there's so many of those House ratings I wanted to go over. But yeah, I mean, they're on Cook. I think they're just being cautious this time because they have underestimated Republican support. So they're not trying to put a bunch of districts on there that end up not going Democratic this year. They've been humiliated now for like 10 years. And it's very clear to me that they're trying. Their polling was horrible in 24. Their polling was like among the most bullish polling for Kamala Harris. Pennsylvania, I think their last one was like Harris +6 or something. The Cook Political Report polling was very bad. And I think that they're trying to turn over a new leaf. Morning Consult is clearly doing that too. They're not as bullish on Republicans because they hedged at the end to give Trump like an eked out electoral college win. But they did things that were like the Napolitano News poll with Scott Rasmussen does it for them. Same thing. Last minute, like, we'll give Harris Michigan, but we'll give Trump Pennsylvania. And then Wisconsin is just a tie, dead a tie. Like, guys, we went over that a million times. They were never going to split the Great Lakes states like that. Eventually, they will vote separately. But in the Trump era, especially with Trump on the ballot, it was always going to be 3 or 3 or 3. Biden wins all 3. Trump wins all 3. Trump wins all 3 again. That's the way it was going to be. Wisconsin ended up being very, very close because Wisconsin has this like voter registration up until the day of. It's very weird. Everyone knows Milwaukee cheats. It's not a secret. And it was the first one to get called in 2016, and it was one of Trump's stronger states outside of Pennsylvania, of course. And then this time around, that's why we just polled Michigan and Pennsylvania, because they represented two parts of the Trump coalition. Much more older MAGA in Pennsylvania, but then still we could see new MAGA in there. Michigan was like, oh my God, this black vote thing is real. And you could see it in Wayne County. Improving 5 points in Wayne County alone was like catastrophic for Kamala Harris, that Trump did that. So we stuck to those two because, it was always like they were hedging. That was a cowardly way out. They hedged. And it wasn't like they were just making shit up, guys. I'm telling you. But I think what Cook is doing now is not trying to be they want a Democratic cycle where they understate Democratic support and Democratic gains so they can say, look, we have misses in both directions. They want that bad. All right. Is JD going to negotiate a ceasefire with all the dead negotiators? I forgot his name, but I can get it for you if you want. And then it looks like we actually do have some Artemis 2 news. It's official. As of 3 minutes ago, the astronauts on the Artemis 2 moon mission traveled further from Earth than any humans before. That's weird. I didn't think that would happen that quickly. Oh no, it is that many days. Where is that, guys? Hold on. Let me go to. Okay, they are negotiating with. Where is it? We wrote it down. No, that's not him. Tabatabai, whatever. That's not him. Come on. Where is he? Pakistan's got this plan, and that's what they were talking. It's like Pakistan's plan seems to be the number one so far. All right, is the intelligence chief of the paramilitary Revolutionary Guard. That's he's been killed. So he's out. So who took over for that was... Come on, man. I literally just said, don't forget this guy's name. Hopefully. Is it Velayati? Something like that. Hold on. Crap. I thought I wrote it down and I didn't. Well, whoops. I forgot. So, my bad. I'll get that name, though. I can get it for you guys. But I get your point. 100% I get your point. I mean, it's kind of hard to negotiate with people when you're killing them, right? I'll never forget that day when Trump was like, oh, well, We are negotiating. I had a deal. But I killed everybody. Like, wait, what? Like, he was dead serious too. It was crazy. Absolute crazy. Just nonsense. Like, we were negotiating with these guys, but I killed them. Like, oh my God. Americans don't need Iran's oil. We have our own. I thought one of the cooler things Trump said last week was when he said, listen, the Strait is what it is. Take it back. If you need it, Europe. Otherwise, buy it from the United States. If you go to the Baker Hughes rig count right now, you could see that we, at least on that side of it, we really can't give everybody our shit, but we can move in that direction. So I want the world order, the international system. I wanted it remodeled. I want to leave NATO on our terms. I want to see the United States have a different role in the Middle East. Those bases, Robert's right, they're freaking useless, obviously. I wanted all of that. I just wanted it on our terms, where it's like leaving Vietnam with a broken nose and a bloody nose and crying like a baby. Like, this is how we're going to leave that area of the world. And it's not because we did it on our terms and with strength and with dignity. No, we're going to get chased out. That's what's going to happen. And it's going to be humiliating. If Schmidt is picked for AG, how vulnerable is his seat in Missouri? McCaskill won in 06 and McCain only won by 4,000 votes in 08. Very good, Dreher. Even Howley, one of the most populist members of Congress, ran 5 points behind Trump in 24. It is, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not Indiana, but it is. And you may notice, Missouri was like a Harry Truman state, right? And it was so key to his coalition. That kind of voter, obviously, that's Harry Truman's. But you're right. It is risky. I just think they do have a bench there. And also Schmidt can bring some people along that he's worked with in the past. A lot of the problems that we see with these guys, and no matter how good they are, once they go in, they're working with all these deep state actors who undermine them. If you have friends like Sean and Pete at the Defense Department, for instance, places a pit of vipers. But if you have friends that you're used to working with, it helps. And you have already existing relationships or working relationships, it can help. Missouri has a deep bench of populists. So it's not like he'll be replaced with a rhino like permanently. It is risky, though. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I still think it can be held because I think Democrats are going to have other targets that they're going to want to go after. But it is a risk. You are right. And look, I mean, we've had some recent races in Missouri that were kind of a little hairy. Trump wants to make Gaza the new Rivera. How convenient Dubai is getting destroyed. Yeah, you see it. You see it. Let's hope for better. Who ran this poll? Ryan, look, I'm telling you, I will say this to the president, because I do think that we are going to see what I sadly, they will come at once this administration is over. I think at this point, before he's forced to surrender his passport again with Democratic lawfare, I think he's likely to just leave. But I would say this, given that Newsweek article finally came out, and I meant to say this before when Robert and I were talking about it, I would say this to the president himself. Don't you want to serve out your second term? Don't you want to survive and serve the entirety of your second term after you made this incredible historic comeback? Who is telling you these Republicans won't cave on you? They will. All of your new neocon friends are going to abandon you. If Lindsey Graham is reelected, he has no reason to support you anymore. You think your friends from the golf course or something? Once they start to dredge up all of those stories from the DOJ and everywhere else, he will abandon you, like he has in the past. John Cornyn is an impeachment vote waiting to happen. That's going to happen if he's reelected. Some of the people that you have endorsed in the House, Ed himself, who's running against Thomas Massie, Ed Galrin hates you. He's a never Trumper and a COVID lockdown cheerleader. He left the Republican Party when it nominated you the first time around to run against Hillary Clinton. And he did not return until Joe Biden and the Chinese stole your reelection. That's when Ed Galrin came back to the Republican Party. So while I was never a huge fan of Thomas Massie, you guys know that, at least I know where the guy stands. Do we really need another Trump fake Trump cheerleader who will end up voting for Donald Trump to be impeached anyway. It's like he's got these I'm talking directly to him. You got these advisors who are not looking out for you. And it's very easy to get trapped in a bubble in that town and in that office. They're doing what's right for them. You're the one who's going to be screwed here. Do you want that to be the end of your legacy? You made this amazing, historic comeback, Cincinnati style, but then you were forced out of office in disgrace because they used your DOJ as a cash register? That's what you want to do here? By the way, the third most popular Republican or person in Kentucky District 4 is Robert Kennedy. Americans don't need it. Yep. I can't believe he survived assassination for this. I mean, think about the story, Theosis. Amazing story, an amazing comeback story. This is how he wants it to end? It's unbelievable. 2028 GOP primary, who get your vote from interactive polls, had 4,000 votes with 5 hours left. JD Vance was not winning it. Marco Rubio was at 34%. And that's because, again, Emerald Robinson, you guys should definitely go and look at her Twitter feed. She will show you how this con is being run. These bots, that's this bot network from, bought and paid by the Israel lobby. You can see it. She's right. This one posts, these people retweet this. It's a tire scam. And I've talked to them about this before. And then people know that I've talked to them about. And it's like, do they think, the number one question I'm asked by that people is like, do they think it's going to work? Do they think this, because it's fake. It's totally fake. Fake retweets, propping up garbage accounts, garbage copying seals, not real analysis. Do you think that they think that this is going to work? And I can't answer because I don't know what's in their head, but it's not going to work. In fact, we have seen in scientific polls and in election results and every other hard data point that we have, it's not working. It has not averted. Like, this strategy has been an utter failure. This communication strategy. It's like full steam ahead, never admit you were wrong, never course correct, pay a bunch of people to post bullshit, pay other people to retweet that bullshit, and let's fake support. Let's astroturf support. It's not working. In case you haven't noticed, you lost your own district in Florida, dude. In fact, it's back. I would argue it's backfiring because it's so fake and gay. Everybody can see it's fake and gay. And it's just humiliating at this point. And that's where, again, like, you survive an assassination attempt. You made the greatest political comeback in U.S. history. This is what you want? It's fake and gay? That's what you want? It's corny, man. Mark Mitchell, Rasmussen hostage ransom fund. Oh, my God, I'm screenshotting that. Whoops, I think I screwed that up. Hey, gorgeous. Oh, look at you. What? I'm not allowed to tell everybody how pretty my wife is? Were you going to come in and, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say I was going to go to Walmart real quick to pick up his Joy-Cons.
Joy-Cons? This spoiled little booger. Are you kidding me? You can't just have it brought. I was about to get off here soon. I was going to talk to you, but are you really going to be quick and go or no?
Just doing the pickup area. I'm not even going inside.
Well, I was thinking after this, I'm going to, it's 2:40. I was going to have to reach some more younger people in the 4th district. I was thinking of just doing that, getting it started, and then maybe we'll go to the gym for a little bit. Or did you not want to go?
Oh, I definitely want to go to the gym.
Okay.
That's not a question. The question is,
I am hungry though.
okay, but the question is when?
Like right after this. Soon. I'm going through comments.
Yeah, but she has dance. 5:15.
Well, I'll be done within 10 minutes.
All right, then let me go get his little Joy-Cons.
All right, just come back here. It's just that it's back and forth after a 600-mile trip.
But he's going to be so excited.
All right. They have school tomorrow, correct? You look beautiful. I mean, they're amazing. I would, dare I say, I would describe it as stunning.
Stop it. I will never tell you
It's
anything.
you have to tell me. It's like
No.
women ladies, why can't you believe your own husbands? You have to hear it from like other women before you believe your own husband. So I'm always telling them, like, you're an extremely beautiful woman. It's not just like you're a pretty girl. You're an extremely good looking woman. And they just, of course, don't believe you because it's you're their husband and they think you're like lying to them or something. And then we're at church and this woman comes over and she's like, you know, you're such a stunning woman. So like, now I'm just busting her chops and I keep saying stunning because like they just don't. Why don't you believe your own husbands? Like we're lying to you or something. You have to be told by another woman the same exact thing your husband's been telling you this, and she should know better. I have no problems going, honey, I think you're getting a little fat. I have no problem doing that. In fact, I appreciate that my father, leading up to the 24 election, was the only one honest with me. And he'd be like, Rich, I just saw you on TV. You did a great job, but you're getting a little fat, bro. You're fat. And I was getting fat. I'm putting back on weight now. I was fat, though. Not fat. I was fat. A little chubby. That's fat. That's cute. I spent 10 years behind a computer polling when I was always such an active person, and now I'm putting weight back on, which I guess is muscle because my stomach is going down and has been. I'm working on abs, which I haven't had since I was like 30, like that. What I want anyway. I haven't had that since I was like 30 years old, and I'm slimming my waist and everything. I can tell, but I'm putting on weight again. So I know it's building muscle, but it's like, it's still, I was trying to get thinner. I was trying to get lighter. What are you going to do? Yep. I sent that to Mark, by the way, Rocket Boy. And to everybody, thank you for your tips, of course, and super chats. Let's keep going through them. Interesting poll, which had Thomas Massey at 25%, Ron DeSantis at 10, Marco Rubio at 34, JD Vance at 31. But again, that's a Twitter poll, and it's not scientific, and it's just Twitter's just becoming a cesspool for the lobby. And they're not the only ones. A lot of foreign money on there too. I mean, other foreign money. It's such a shame because Twitter used to be the place to have discourse about politics, and now it's being polluted. We need a FARA-like extension law for social media, explicit, because Robert is right. You technically could extend FARA to X, and we obviously need to explicitly state it. Like there should be posts that say this post was paid for by, like there's just so many people getting paid to post, and they're getting paid a lot of money. So they have no reason to be honest with you. And you should know if that person is being financially supported by any lobby. I don't care if it's the Israel lobby, the friggin' Iranian lobby, the Qatar lobby, whatever. It should be anyone. It's just that at this point, let's be real. Nobody's spending money like the Israel lobby. Nobody. It's like not even close. I have to laugh when I hear about Qatar Olson. Tucker is loaded, bro. He's not. He doesn't have some corny ass syndicated radio show nobody watches. He's loaded. That guy has money. He doesn't need to take money from Qatar. It's ridiculous. It's not even true. That document they pass around, they're so stupid they don't realize that it doesn't prove what they think it proves at all. But they're dumb. These are dumb people and dishonest people. But it's like neocons are like liberals. Confession through projection. They do because they are liberals. Neocons were communists, guys. There's nothing conservative about neocons except for they share a root word. That's about the limit of what makes them anywhere near a conservative. That's why they support mass surveillance states and nation building and regime change. Those are big government-centered solutions, all of them. There's nothing conservative about neoconservatism. Nothing. Bill Kristol and his daddy were Trotskyites. Charles Krauthammer was a left-winger who hated Ronald Reagan. George Will called Ronald Reagan a kamikaze conservative. They hate conservatives. There's nothing conservative about them. I'm so sick of hearing this. David French, a con man of the highest order. Nothing conservative about Mr. French. Started late playing catch up because I was watching Viva Barnes. Robert, I never thought you were laughing at the servicemen of their loved ones. Oh, this is James. Okay, good. We just wanted to clarify that because we did get other comments like that in the past, James. It's hard to listen when you can do nothing to save them. Your reflection has been much appreciated. Praying for your sons and daughters. And I'll pass that on, James. I'm going to screenshot that and pass that on to him so he sees that. What about Minnesota and Royce White? I will circle back, everyone's favorite expression. I will circle back and we will have Royce on. Going to be a hard race, guys. Going to be a very, very hard race. Again, we talk about what will happen when Republicans get cleaned the way that they are currently on track to get cleaned. Here's a great example. Minnesota. This has been my white whale for years, and I'm very much looking forward. They had to move the date. So if you guys got tickets, I'm sure they accommodated you. But I'm very much looking forward to going to Minnesota to give my speech with Maureen, Bannon, and Barnes. And it's been my white whale for many, many years. And if Republicans weren't stupid and did what they did here, this is what I'm talking about. So when you are looking at the next reapportionment, you're looking at how the next census is conducted. This suddenly, if Republicans were going to win and take advantage of this, this suddenly opens up all of these new venues. And Minnesota being being an anti-war platform, the populist platform is incredibly important in states like Minnesota. Minnesota may be like the quintessential populist state. That's why the Democratic Party doesn't even associate it. The Democratic Party in Minnesota is a separate entity than the National Democratic Party. They don't even associate themselves with them. And that was smart to keep their brand clean of the National Democratic Party brand. Republicans need, I'm not going to just say it now, but of course I have many great plans for Minnesota. And I really, as I do with New Jersey, and I really wanted to see this freed up. You know, the pathway to 270 freed up for Republicans so they didn't have to worry about pulling some inside, straight or some royal straight flush, really. I mean, I plumb supply chains, do high-end manufacturing, and start other companies doing the same. This is a disaster in the real world. Helium, high-end alloys, petrochemicals for manufacturing, gone. No new mines. America gets screwed by China, reps, and Dems. Yeah. And by the way, Andrew, the Democratic Party is run by the CCP. It is. Like, that's another thing we haven't been able to even discuss is like what happened in 2020, which Trump is obsessed about. If he fires Tulsi Gabbard, you'll never hear about it. But, this idea like Act Blue just somehow had freaking filed that away incorrectly. We had some, accounting issues. Bull. That's how Act Blue was intended to run. The CCP is basically in charge of the Democratic Party. It's true. I mean, that's why Bannon is so focused on it. I mean, that is true. And it's a shame because Republicans losing here, they're not it's not voters giving Democrats an affirmation of them. It's just a rejection of Republicans and what they have done. It's a punishment. It's a punishment for ignoring them, betraying them. You don't escape that. Not without a Sister Soldier moment. And for those who don't know what I mean by that, Sister Soldier is a reference to a moment in politics where it's basically you admitting you effed up. You did something wrong. And it's a moment of apologizing and a moment of saying, you know what, I acknowledge that I wronged the voter and I'm going to make good on it, right? Actually, let me see if I can get a timeline. So there she is, 1997. There it is. The term originated in the 92 presidency in the candidacy of Bill Clinton. Washington Post interview Populist on May 13th, 1992. The hip-hop MC, author, and political activist, Sister Soldier, was quoted as saying in response to the question regarding black-on-white violence in the 92 Los Angeles riots, question, even the people themselves who were perpetrating that violence, did they think that was wise? Was that a wise, recent action? So said, yeah, it was wise. I mean, if black people kill black people every day, why not have a week and kill white people? White people, this government and that mayor were all well aware to the fact that black people were dying every day in Los Angeles under gang violence. So if you're a gang member and you normally be killing somebody, why not kill a white person? Do you think that somebody thinks that white people are better, are above and beyond dying when they would kill their own kind? All right, it was quoted by in David Mills's, in her own undisputed words, the transcript of the interview that spawned the Sister Soldier story. So basically, it's when a politician's calculated public repudiation of an extremist person, statement, group, or position that is perceived to have some association with the politician's own party. I think it's fair at this point to point out that, look, the same people who fund Likud largely fund the Republican Party, and that the association that Netanyahu and Israel has with the Republican Party is politically toxic at this point. And the perception out there in the greater electorate and the greater public is that Donald Trump is on some level controlled by Israel and was dog walked into a stupid, unwise war, breaking the worst, breaking a campaign promise that amounts to the biggest campaign promise betrayal ever. And it without some kind, because there are all these one-sided humiliation rituals all the time, right, Governor DeSantis? There are all these one-sided humiliation rituals. You have to put on a headdress that doesn't represent your faith and wail at a wall that doesn't represent your faith, it's a humiliation ritual. Without some public repudiation of somebody who's basically hated right now in a position, the country itself is disliked. And it's a shame because it's Netanyahu. It's like not even American Jews don't support it. I mean, it's just crazy. And with barring some Sister Soldier moment, I just don't see how they get the stain off of them. It has to be somebody else who takes the Republican Party forward, because from this point on, they'll always have this on them. They'll always have this stain on them. But Ryan, back to that real quick. I just say, that's what I mean. It would be nice. There are other places to expand the map, like Royce White, Minnesota. And instead, you're going to have to be defending Ohio. It's going to be a tough race now. Do you think the polls are correct that Vivek Ramaswamy is doing poorly in Ohio? If so, can you provide insight? I do. That's Blue Pen on Locals. Thanks for the tip. I do. I think they're absolutely right. People don't understand that a lot of Republicans are still willing to cross the aisle because they're in Ohio and places like Iowa, because they're newer Republicans. They're not Republicans in the mold of the GOP, the grand old party. They're in the mold of Trumpism. So, we're going to see this in North Carolina too. Like I said, 15% basically of Republicans are voting for Roy Cooper. Those are new registration Republicans. We can see it clear as day. They're recent Republicans or previous Democrats or previous independents, or new state movers sometimes too. But there's that. So you'll lose some of your base, which Vivek is going to lose. And then you're going to get destroyed by independents. Destroyed. Democrats are really not that much of the registered vote in Ohio, but you'll notice when you look at exit polls or you look at even pre-election polls, these are a lot of independents who they'll call themselves, when the pollster or exit pollster asks, they'll call themselves Democrats. And then you have that, they're not true independents, but then you have what remains of that being independent. They're always a higher share of their voting registration, always. And then if you lose independents that badly, it's a massive problem. And just to give you an idea, in 2024, for instance, let me go to Ohio. I was just going to say, do I even have it? Because I know they didn't want to do it. It was R plus 10, 41-31. And it was still 28% of independents. Independents split between Harris and Trump. 50-48, Trump won them by 2. In 2020, Biden won independents, all right, in Ohio. It was still, not going to be close. But let me go to the 2020 exit polls. I'll get the exact margin here on 2020 exit polls. But when you're losing independents by that kind of a margin, then suddenly a state that could be R plus 10 is still going to be competitive. And by the way, I don't think it will be R plus 10. In 2020, Ohio was R plus 8. I think that's probably more likely where we're going to go. And it looks like independents actually split 48-48 for Trump and Biden. Biden won 7% of Republicans. Trump won 7% of Democrats. Things have changed, though. I hate to say it, but they have changed. So you're just not going to see that many Democrats voting Republican anymore because so many of them have already changed their registration. They're at the end of that pool, Love the show. Can't wait to see the first president to be impeached and convicted. Gonna suck for JD having to deal with this turmoil. Fun times. It is gonna suck for JD. That's what Stephen, I don't think people understand yet. It's just like why I made such a big deal over him supporting Thune. If you thought like those things were okay and those things were not mistakes, then you just don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how DC works. You don't know the senators at all. Like I guarantee you probably don't know personally any of them. That was a monumental mistake. Thune was a huge mistake. And there seems to be this false sense of security by most people, even though I know one person specifically is counting Senate votes for conviction. There's this false sense of security, like that there won't be, 8 Republican senators who vote yes. There will easily. And I don't think they're like being honest with themselves. And it's amazing how many senators Republican and how many House members Republican will tell you how much they can't stand the team at the White House. They're treated like shit. They're talked down to, and they don't like them. They're like dying to get this. They never liked Trump to begin with. This was an act. And that's why he needed to go to war with the establishment. He did. And he did. And he played nice with them again. But he needed to go to war with them because the people are Donald Trump's only real armor and protection against impeachment. By the way, neocons almost got Ronald Reagan impeached too because he let them in. Right, Ali? The only reason Democrats didn't go forward with it is because Ronald Reagan still had the people on his side. A lot of the reasons why McConnell backed off of some of the other efforts that he wanted to support was because he was worried about Trump's popularity still with Republican voters. By the time we get to that this time, that is not going to be an issue at this rate. We had a modest bump in strong approval among Republicans back above 50 because of the war. And I bet you it'll fall back down again very, very soon. Actually, I can check it. I wonder what it is. Let me see something real quick. What is Trump's strong approval with? Actually, Republicans. Give me a second. It's probably like 48% now. Again. Let me go back up. Okay. Okay. So nationally, it's about 50 still. So it's going back down. It was up. And in Massey's district, which I also just looked at, it's 55. I mean, that's not for Donald Trump. That's not great. Donald Trump used to have like just solid, strong support. If Democrats get the Senate majority, will the rhinos give the Democrats the supermajority to impeach Trump? Yeah, they will. Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This time, they have nothing else to worry about. Nothing else. The primaries will be done. He won't ever run again. If they succeed, then he won't be a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like he won't be a problem for them in the future, Yep. That's kind of funny, Andrew. Andrew said, you oscillated between YouTube and locals. I put super chat in YouTube because I typically abandon locals. Yeah, I did see you did it in Volt this time. That's why I read it too. But now here I am reading the locals one. And he's like, shit. At least it was a cool meme, though. He put, can I show? I mean, you don't care if I show this, right? This is kind of funny. Honestly, it is. But I know I do this sometimes. Laura yells at me for doing it. But here's Andrew's meme about me and Robert and our locals tips. That's funny, right? OG supporters under the water, locals, Rich and Robert tossing around the YouTube chats. That's why I do like Rumble too, because it pulls them all in, Andrew. It's just, without a doubt, we get a lot more traffic on YouTube most of the time. I just think that's probably true. I can go and do some research, but some Rumbles go viral and go nuts. And then some just don't get much anything. I did notice, however, and I did this with the Joe Kent interview. I was so pissed. I can't stand how Rumble has like the account, People's Pundit, and it's all uppercases and whatnot. And then it's like the user account. And when you're putting up a video, sometimes it's not clear that it puts it under the user profile, which has like 2,000 subscribers. There's like nothing there because it's not what I ever pushed. And with Joe, I moved it over, but it was too late. It didn't get sent out. Like the notification didn't get sent out to all of our subscribers. So it was like, and I did this for like a week and a half. I wasted all those videos. So stupid. Eventually, something, maybe StreamYard will start pulling in Rumble too. I really hope they do. There really is no reason why StreamYard doesn't have a Rumble destination. You have to do a custom RTMP, which isn't compatible with the comments. Rumble Studio is compatible with YouTube, with Rumble, with locals. I mean, I understand locals still being a custom RTMP for StreamYard, but Jesus, StreamYard, look at all the projects you've been doing. Rumble is out there now. It's not going anywhere. You should make compatible with the comments so I can pull in Rumble rants, which I can't do right now. There are a lot of fishback voters that won't vote for Donald's. I think that's probably true. Yeah, I do think that's not probably. I actually, Ginger, what's up, bro? I think the polls are actually showing that now, and that's a problem, especially younger voters. And I like Byron. I do. I like Byron. I just think that there's a very real split. Israel has caused that split, honestly. There's a very real split between younger voters and the Republican coalition that's older and more reliable. And that's the problem. Why Massey is going to be such a big problem for Trump in the future. I mean, let's say Ed was to win and beat Massey. Those younger voters are gone. They're gone. They're just done. They're done with the Israel lobby. They're done with them. Nobody can notice this. Like some stupid idiot the other day takes the clip. Grace Chung does better clips than I do. She takes the clip of me saying, nominate a white Christian. Like, are you tone deaf? Like, and I like Lee Zeldin, but pay attention to the people. All right. Like, you can't be this tone deaf. You can't be this stupid. And like, he clips you like, he's the most preeminent. I think he called him like the most prominent lawyer in America. So it's like, listen, I know Lee Zeldin, unlike you. And that's a bit of a stretch for Lee. Nobody in America will give a shit about Lee Zeldin being a prominent lawyer, let alone the most prominent one. Everyone thinks the Trump administration is controlled by Israel. The Epstein files was a complete and total debacle, and everyone thinks it's because he was protecting his pedophile Israeli friends. Holy shit, are you stupid? Nobody cares. He's a prominent lawyer. He could be a Nobel Prize winner. Nobody will give a shit. It's stupid. Politically dumb. It's like it would be politically dumb for Obama to, like, in the middle of being criticized as being a Muslim sympathizer, to put like a Muslim on the Supreme Court. Or to put a Muslim as the attorney general when everyone thinks they were letting the Muslim Brotherhood get away with murder. Literally. The right is having a problem separating their fake reality from the actual reality that matters. Oh my God. I think the FTC has already said they're supposed to identify paid statements. It's only rarely enforced for advertisements, much less political stuff. Yeah, Dread. That's Dread Robert. Yeah, I mean, promises. Where's it at? Like, it matters now. I really think it's bad. It's really, really damaging. As a welder in Minnesota, I'm fearful. I'm greatly demoralized. I know Democrats aren't the play, but that's where the pendulum is swinging. I feel like the pendulum will swing so hard it breaks. The future does not look bright. Yeah, this is going to be a hard swing, Joe. I'm not going to lie to you, brother. It doesn't have to be. It never had to be. This is the thing that pisses me off the most. That's the worst part about it. Like, here it is, very clear, very, 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 very clear. The Epstein stuff hurt. It did. But the bombing of Iran after the Epstein stuff was just the worst story to tell. I have frequently described it as a 1-2 punch to the chin of MAGA. The left setup punch was the Epstein files, and then the bombing of Iran was the overhand right. Let's nominate Lee Zeldin because I'm a retard. God. It's like they're asking the world's biggest retards for advice and then taking it. How could we lose greater? Quick, get me the next clapping seal retard from X. Yes, I love that take. Let's roll with it. Well, sir, now we're down another Senate seat. Quick, get me the next retard. What a stupid take. Let's run with it. It's ridiculous, man. Again, like, I don't understand why some of these people are even still talking. Dave Rubin's, the wannabe people's pundits. Like, why are you still speaking? Where is the uprising? Yeah, I mean, blowing us away over the weekend. It's like, this is a fake operation to rescue a pilot. Like, wait, what? Yeah, heard about that Friday night, Saturday before, because it's like a fake up. Wait a minute. What? Explain this to me. Well, you remember that stupid Mark Levin advertisement from the president the other day? Watch Mark Thiessen on Mark Levin. And then these two morons go on to talk about how we can use the 82nd Airborne to go and like take the uranium, and everyone was just making fun of them like a bunch of idiots. Well, as it turns out, they actually did it. And Mark Levin, or attempted to, they failed. And Mark Levin made the stupid comment, it's the 82nd. It's not like it's the infantry. The 82nd Airborne is an infantry unit, you stupid moron. And they failed. Not the 82nd. The units they did send in there. What's going on here? Iran quietly told the EU settle in the euro over dollar. Oh, no. By the way, thank you for your membership. 26 months. Nice. Long term, my guy. Rio Kirito. Kirito. Yeah. Kirito. Love it. Rio Kirito. Yeah, I got you. Man, we need to arm Japan. Well, we can't arm them with shit anymore. That's for sure. If that's true, that's one of the biggest risks we're doing with this war is the collapse. And I was talking to Matt Gaetz about this on his show. Like, the collapse of the petrodollar is a huge problem. Could end up being a huge problem. Thank you for your support, by the way. Yeah, I hope not. I'm going to go look that up when we get off. I'm going to go and look and see, and I'll make a phone call and see if I can't get some information. What are the odds? This is a good question. They're all good questions, but like I've frequently thought about this myself. What are the odds the Dems moving to the middle and abandoning the far left Marxists for 28? Are we cooked? Libertarian populists could do well. I think they're going to try to appear that they're doing that, and that's the real danger, I think, because I don't think they will. I don't think they will ever abandon their mind. They are far left Marxists. So, or fast. Some of them are fascists, just straight up fascists. But I don't think they'll abandon that. I just don't. I think it's more likely they'll pretend that they will, but like a candidate like John Ossoff or Josh Shapiro. It's too much anti-Semitism on the left, though. Like real anti-Semitism. I don't think Shapiro could get through a primary. But like, yeah, I think they're going to clearly appear or try to appear that that's what they're doing. Their campaign messaging is scoring through the roof, and it's like, because they already kind of are doing this, brother, and it's scoring like 30 points higher than the Republican message. The sentiment score is way better. So that's what I'm more concerned about, that they are going to pretend that they're doing that. It is going to work, and they're not really doing it. And then you have like people be lined up against the wall 5 years from now, if that. Shit, look what the Biden administration did to Trump. Maybe not even 5 years. Does Trump not care what happens because his fam, the admin, will be pardoned and they'll cut and run from the U.S., or is it just a bubble? I think it's a bit of both. I do. I think it's a bit of both. I think that he's got himself a backup plan if he needs to, and I know it sucks, but I think that's likely the situation. It's just that who's going to pardon him? Is he going to pardon himself? Or is JD going to be forced to pardon him and then turn into Gerald Ford? Destroy JD? Well, if you're the Bushies, that works for you, don't it? Doesn't work for you. If you're the Bushies, it works for you. You know what I mean? Barnes is tired of the delusion of the seal clappers. Man, I've been tired of it. Barnes is tired of it. It's like, All they had to do was just when did they even think they were anywhere near our level? Like, this is the thing that gets me. All you did was copy my polling for years and like retweet my polling. Like, you never had any original takes on your own. So what on earth ever made you think that you were going to be on our level? How? What? It's a delusion. You have to be delusional. And now here we are. And it's so catastrophic. It's so catastrophic. Yeah, that's a good buy. Yeah, I just took them at 39. Yeah, that's a good in Iowa. It's a good buy, man. Unless you think Jim's going to win, because I see nothing but disaffection, no enthusiasm. 31 pivot counties, more than any other state in the country. To think it's safe is foolish. It's not safe. And the Dem is underrated at 39%. There's no, it's true. Do I ultimately think Republicans could hold Iowa, could hold Ohio? I mean, they could. Again, that's the point of all this. We're not over here just dooming and blackpilling. Like, this is what annoys us about the clapping seals. They have no criticism. They have no suggestions. They're just looking at the numbers and they're saying to themselves, and it's not true. La 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 la. Hear no evil, see no evil. La 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 la. It's stupid. It's like you're a simpleton at this point. Like that shipwreck crew dude who like represented all those people who ended up in jail anyway. Like, oh, more doom, panic porn, whatever he called it. Like, only a retard wouldn't be panicking right now. You have to be simple at this point. You're facing a nightmare situation on every metric. We're expected to just think or pretend. We're supposed to just pretend. That's your theory of the case here. Everybody's wrong. The elections are what? Fake? All of the data we have on special elections, under and over performances, all the registration data, all the primary turnout data. These are predictive. We're just supposed to pretend they're fake because why? You say so? Mr. and Mrs. I don't interview anybody. I don't have any experience. All I do is get paid to post on X all day. I'm a fake expert. We're supposed to take your advice here. You were wrong. Be humiliated like a fucking man would be. Apologize like a fucking man would do. And grow from the experience and move on. Be productive to the conversation. Let's not get destroyed. Let's not end up with 52 to 55 Democrat seats. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's stupid. It's so tired now. It's so stale. It's not panic porn. It's time to panic, dummy. Because the generic ballot is predictive at this point in the game. It is. It has been for months. Again, a general loss from November to the November before the year to the November of election cycle. A general loss of 5 point on margin. It was time to panic last year. In truth. I'm sorry, you're just too stupid to see that far into the future. It's not even stupidity. It's just willful cognitive bias, willful illusory truth. You just want to be dumb and unproductive. That's the sad part about it. It's not productive. Doesn't help the situation. Can states like New York, California prosecute bribery, insider trading, even if they get a presidential pardon in 28? Some market moves have been sketchy. Yeah, they're super sketchy. Super sketchy. I think they won't have to worry about that anyway, because I think that they will be prosecuted by the feds. I do. I think at this rate, he'll be so politically inept, and it will be such a lame duck. I mean, that's when your own party comes for you, like they did with Nixon, you know? Yeah, I don't know, though. That's a good question. Do we have any lawyers in here left? That should have been a question for Barnes. I don't know that. I know they can do antitrust, and I know they are, and I know several that are going to. In fact, well, I'll leave that alone. But one Democrat I know, I won't say it, but one Democrat I know who's working on some of these things was watching. He's like watching Mike Davis on War Room talk about the firing of Pam Bondi. Why? Because they're all over these guys. They're watching for statements. They're watching for things that they can use for them against them later. And he literally sent me a clip that he clipped from War Room and was like, "Oh, your boy looks like he's going to cry. His girl Pam is gone. Does he think he's not going to jail because Pam Bondi was fired? He's going to jail." I'm like, "Oh my God. Oh my God." And it did look like he was going to cry. It did. They're just open, like, believe me, it's coming. No military tribunal's coming. Not for Obama. Barack Obama's not going to be arrested. Jim Comey doesn't need to lawyer up, motherfucker. You do. Barnes has mentioned a few different ideas for populism in 2728. What will you need help with to make that happen? Would love to be involved and volunteer for work like this. So that's really cool. Are you on locals, Charles? I need to start like aggregating people like you who are willing to do volunteer and other stuff, and maybe not even volunteer, but yeah. So we will. I mean, there are things we could use that we will need help with. Obviously, raising money is a huge help, but there are other things that even if people who don't, fund projects like that, still will be able to do to help us. So that's interesting. If you don't mind, I'm just going to grab your username. I need to start keeping track of people who are willing to help. I get a lot of mails like that. If you can, and there should be a email thing. You're on YouTube, but the better one is on locals. But we still have a contact at peoplespunditdaily.com. You could email that. But the locals one is better. It goes directly to an email that I track a lot more. The contact at People's Pundit Daily, I don't really track that much. I saw it on YouTube, needed some updated information, and I noticed that was still there, and I was, oh man. The Dems are not as big a threat. They lost their cultural monopoly illusion of consensus in 24. They can spurg out with brute force, but everyone knows that everyone hates them. That's the worst part about this, Brian. They'll abuse the power that they have. They exercise the power that is given to them, even if it is beyond their mandate. But this won't be some affirmation of the Democratic Party. Nobody likes them. It's a punishment. And I think American people, they make these decisions sometimes and they don't really realize how widespread implications they could have. It's Republicans' job to warn them, but they're not doing it right. They're just like, Democrats are so bad, so you have to vote for us. And it's like, well, if you really believe that, then you wouldn't have started a fucking war, right? That we didn't want you to start. That's one thing Barnes said before that's absolutely true. Guys, remember I did that video on the eve of the war because I knew the war was coming. And I was like, where do your loyalties lie? If you truly believe that the Democratic Party is an existential threat, that they are the greatest threat after everything that we went through in the Trump era, if you really believe that, then your loyalty is to your coalition. It is not to Israel. You start this war, you'll kill your coalition, which is already on life support as it is. I think that tweet got like 30,000 plus retweets last year when he was going to do those limited strikes against Iran. And I said, you do this, MAGA is dead. I said that last year. It got covered by Newsweek, WAPO, CNN, what's his name, Steven at CNN. Well, hate to be right, but here we are. Your duty was to your coalition and to the voters who kept you out of jail. Was not to Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump's tone sounds as flippant as Hillary Clinton's. We saw, he died. Man, that is such a good observation. I'm almost to the end of the line here, but man, that's a great observation. I've noticed that too, guys. I've noticed that too. That Trump's tone is like, I don't know, man, it's different. There we go. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any rants. But you're right, man. I hate to say it, guys. He's right. That's true. He's had this tone about him, this flippant, and this like the way he talks about his own voters and Americans. Like, I don't want your support anymore. Boo-hoo. Stop asking me about the Epstein files. And then he knows everyone's mad about it and mad about the Israel lobby. And he tweets, make Iran great again, like a big you to the middle finger of his own voter. And then he goes on Laura Ingraham, right? What's her name? Laura Ingraham. And she's like, what do you mean? We got talented Americans here. No, we don't, Laura. No, we don't. We don't have talent here. Whoa, bro. Like, it's very, very clear to everybody. It's very clear. And he just casually, Patrick, talks about war crimes. Casually. Retarded GOP is why I'm forced to run as a Dem socialist for Minnesota governor. I actually know Fobang what he's talking about. What a great example. What a great example. Oh, this is a good one to end with. I'm going to end with this one. I think it's the end anyway, but Cynic in Chief, I'm going to end it with this one. Trump wants to be number one this time as worst president. Oh my God, he's going to end up there. That is Cynic in Chief. You got the comment. By the way, you will soon have an alternative to buy Burn It Down, because I know, I think it was you, right? Cynic in Chief said you didn't want to buy it from Amazon. He was hoping for alternatives. We will be getting alternatives for you shortly. And to be truthful, like the New York Times likes to see different alternatives. Like, how did you do on like books.org or whatever that thing is? And so, you know, Books A Million, sales on Books A Million matters a lot to the New York Times and others. So I think you wanted the Kindle, right? So you'll have the chance to get that from somewhere else as well. Yeah, so I'll let you guys know as soon as that happens. All right, so there's Burn It Down right there. Burn It Down, what the polls say young Americans really want. Still number one in statistics. Not sure it's number one overall hot releases still. But I will get you guys that as soon as I, I can. Yeah, go check it out. The link is, where is the Amazon link? We got it? They changed my Amazon author profile because I asked them to. I had a problem claiming Burn It Down because I just didn't even think about it. A while ago, I had, yeah, that's the paperback. Edit, view on Amazon. I had another book and still do, and it was under my like full name and has to match the cover of the book. And I said, listen, if we abandon the other one, that's fine, but this one's under just Rich Baris, and I want to claim this one. I care more, honestly. I care more about this one. The other one's good work too, and if you bought it, you know what I'm talking about. It's just like this book right now needs to be a discussion. And we're going to be going into the midterms when it's officially released at the end of September 21st, September 22nd, which will be here before you know it. And all the pre-orders go towards sales. So it is all very important to build up pre-orders, because it's like banking early. Think about it like this. Pre-orders are like banking early votes. All right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I'll put the Amazon link in the chat right now, by the way. I think locals, you all got it on Amazon. I mean, you all got it on yeah, he's back to being close friends with the Clintons, Dread Robert, who wrote that in a tip on locals. Thank you. That's absolutely true. Crazy, right? He's back. I hope they don't give Bill a hard time. What are you talking about? Hell with Bill Clinton. They would put you in prison in a second. It's like it's such a far cry from where we started on this thing. Locals, go check out too. If you haven't, I think it's still pinned. It's Who Are These? Who are these previous America First, previous MAGA independents? Who are these former MAGA indies? And we'll be building this sample set up. I'll make a new crosstab as time goes on. But man, that is really concerning, isn't it? And Barnes is right. It's I just keep saying all the winning parts. The coalition fracture has impacted all the winning parts of Trump's coalition, all the parts that make it different from a Republican coalition, which is a failed coalition. All the winning parts: younger Americans, less white Americans, Hispanics are seriously higher than the national average. Current military veterans, by division, by census division, terrifying. All the parts of the north of the Midwest that Donald Trump wins. All the parts of the South where he wins big. Not good. Just not good. Yeah, so check it out. How did I miss these? Yeah, I mean, look, let me start with this one, then I'll go to Enjoyer. Tallarico, Ossoff, Bashir, or Stein, best for 2028. I think Ossoff, Andy Bashir he may be good too. I just would, if I was Democrats, I'd worry about like Andy's ability to get out enough non-whites. Shapiro, if you ever could get him through the nomination process, I think would devastate the Electoral College. Republicans would get destroyed. But Ossoff he's dangerous, man. He's good. That's a problem. That guy's a problem. And he's got a black coalition in the South already. That's a problem. Gavin Newsom's not really. I really don't think he's that big of a. I think Gavin Newsom's not going to make it through a Democratic primary right now. He's got no non-white support. All of the polls that have Newsom leading Harris in these, which we're going to do the primaries soon again, probably this week. They all have basically they all have they're oversampling educated white voters, and especially with non-whites swinging back away from Republicans, they'll go what we saw this in Texas and in North Carolina and other primaries already. They'll go back to voting in Democratic primaries, and people are not considering that. I think, yeah, Bashir's, solid. We'll see how Tallarico is. If he loses, it doesn't matter. But Ossoff, he's a problem. If Tallarico wins, he'll instantly be on the top of the list. Instantly. AIPAC-funded GOP Representative Mike Lawler is pushing for a mass amnesty plan for illegal immigrants through his bill, the Dignity Act. Yes, and Salazar is another scumbag. She's like the most pro-amnesty Republican in the Congress. I'm telling you, it's a problem. It's a problem. The donors completely took work that we did collaboratively and misrepresented it to the president. I told the White House that if this happens, it's not with my blessing. I will talk to the media about what I think. Like that's it. Like this is the way it's going to go. If you're going to do this, then then this is the way it's going to go. To complete this game, like that's not what I reported. That's not what we found. Amnesty will not get you your Hispanics back, and amnesty will not bring you back your white working class that's done with you. That part of the coalition that you've pissed off, it will not bring back Maha. Like it'll make worse. It'll make it worse. It's hard. People don't want to listen, man. They just don't want to listen. All right. So with that in mind, don't forget to follow me on the gram, baby, at @peoples_pundit, @peoples_pundit. Let's check the gram real quick before we go. How we doing? Finally past 500. How pathetic. It's just hilarious to my kids. They're like, I focused on X, of course, because X is like the political social media site. So when I was building my social media following, I didn't really focus on anything else. I didn't even like Facebook, frankly. Facebook turned my page into a professional profile page. So my family hates it. But I never even focused on Facebook, so I really needed to focus more on Instagram. We did that research, and Instagram is it, man. Facebook, Instagram, younger, especially Instagram. That Charlie was so right about that, man. He was like, Rich, you got to get an Instagram. You got to get an Instagram. And I didn't do it before the 24 election. And now I'm struggling to build an Instagram page. So pathetic. Because you got to be careful what you do on X, feeding X followers over to other platforms. You have to be very careful with that. So if you have an Instagram account, then absolutely 100%, 110%. There is no such thing as 110%. Then you should absolutely go follow me at @peoples_pundit. Links in the description for it. But of course, the best place to follow me is on Locals, which is right there. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, I'm going to kick rocks. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I just convinced myself we're going to go poll the primary. We'll do the Iran war stuff again. We'll do the Israel stuff again. Maybe it's time for a sympathy question, like Gallup. We'll see if we find the streams have finally crossed like Gallup did. I think it's time. I feel like I want to. And the GOP primary too. We'll just do them, but we'll do them both. And, keep your eye out for it. Laughing. I put that thing you guys put about Mitchell in the chat. They're laughing their asses off. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Hope you have a great rest of the day. And I hope you had a great Easter yesterday. I did. It was wonderful. All right. Go check out Burn It Down. None but love for you guys. Wednesday, we'll go over some more of those house districts in more detail. Okay. All right, guys. All the best. See you soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your rants, super chats, tips, all that. Deuces. You have ZE or not have ZE? That is the question. Later, guys.